DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 31st of May. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
We're GB News, and we come from a proud tradition of British journalism.
That's why I'm so excited to be here. It's something so new.
The first news channel to be launched in Britain in over 30 years.
Launched to represent the views of the British people.
To go where other broadcasters refuse to go.
How did you find out about the story in the first place?
Launched with one aim.
To be the fearless champion of Britain.
It's an absolutely fantastic atmosphere here.
This is GB News.
The People's Channel. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Sunday nights on GB News. From 6, Neil Oliver. At 7, it's Free Speech Nation with Andrew Doyle. At 9, Mark Dolan. And at 11, get set for the week ahead with Headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Nigel Farage, and this is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon and welcome to GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua, and for the next few hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me today in a few moments' time is broadcaster and author Lizzie Cundy, and also the fabulous Matthew Laza. Right, so coming up in the show, Eurovision Meltdown will be live in Sweden as Israel's entry into the song contest prompts controversy. Then, for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, do you trust Labour to tackle the immigration crisis and his counter-terrorism plan? Is that right? Then, difficult conversations. Harsh Ghali, ex-gambling addict, will be here to tell me his story, his heartbreaking story. And in a few moments' time, of course, we'll be mucking the week live in the studio with the fabulous one and only Lewis Schaefer. But before we get started, don't forget spectacular scenes as well. The Northern Lights, they lit the sky. Did you see them? All the best pictures coming up in clickbait. But before we get started, let's get your latest news with Sophia Wensler.
Thanks, Nana. Good afternoon. It's 1 minute past 3. I'm Sophia Wensler in the GB newsroom. The Dutch act has been kicked out of the Eurovision Song Contest grand final. The European Broadcasting Union says Joost Klein won't compete while Swedish police investigate a complaint of inappropriate behaviour by a female member of the production crew. Meanwhile, security has been tightened ahead of tonight's show as pro-Palestinian protests continue. Demonstrators are already gathering in Malmo, rallying against Israel's participation in the event after the country's Eden Golan qualified for tonight's show. She's among the leading contenders to win, but bookmakers have placed Croatia's Baby Lasagna as favourite. Here's what fans have been saying.
I think it's great that the EBU didn't back down cowardly from the protesters, and they included Israel and didn't tamper with votes or anything. They let them through the final.
I understand it. I personally disagree with their involvement, and a lot of the stuff that's happened in the past 24 hours generally in Eurovision, like with the possible disqualification of the Dutch representative, all the videos coming out from inside the arena in general, it's become a bit too much.
We're here to enjoy this stuff. Bambi's here to enjoy it, and we're not bringing politics into it.
I'm not particularly political, so I tend to stay out of it. And I think a competition like this, it's about bringing people together, not trying to cause a lot of diversity. So division. I just don't think that's the right kind of attitude to have about Eurovision.
We have managed to avoid most of anything that's going on, and I think, to be fair, it's been a little bit exaggerated by broadcasting. No, nothing against you guys.
Meanwhile, the US says Israel may have broken international law in its use of American-supplied weapons in Gaza. The State Department says it's reasonable to assess that they've been used in ways that are inconsistent with Israel's obligations. It stopped short of a definitive assessment, saying the chaos of war made it difficult to verify alleged violations. The document also noted Hamas uses civilian infrastructure for military purposes and civilians as human shields. The findings come as Israel warns residents in Rafah to evacuate more areas of the city. In other news, 2 men have been arrested on suspicion of murder after 2 women died in a house fire in Wolverhampton. Emergency services were called to a property in the Dunstall Hill area at 2 a.m. West Midlands Fire Services says 3 other people were injured and taken to hospital, and a 6th person was discharged at the scene. A police officer has been shot in the leg with a crossbow in Buckinghamshire. The officer was responding to reports of a stabbing in High Wycombe last night. A 54-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of attempted murder. He was shot by an armed officer and is now in hospital under police supervision with potentially life-changing injuries. Drivers are being warned to only travel on the M25 in Surrey if absolutely necessary. It follows an unprecedented closure of the motorway, with 5 miles between junctions 9 and 10 closed to traffic until 6 a.m. on Monday. It's created a 19-mile diversion, which is causing delays. It's the first scheduled daytime shutdown of all lanes on the M25 since it opened in 1986. Brits heading to Mallorca or Ibiza this summer may be rethinking their holiday plans. It's as authorities in the Balearic Islands crack down on excessive drinking in some tourist hotspots. The move is in response to complaints by locals who've been reporting unacceptable behaviour, including visitors climbing into people's homes. The sale of alcohol will be banned from 9:30 in the evening until 8 in the morning. And the Northern Lights lit up the skies across Britain last night as one of the strongest geomagnetic storms for years hit the planet. Caused by charged particles hitting the different gases in the Earth's atmosphere, they're usually only seen in the far north of the country. If you miss the display, you're in luck because it might be visible in parts of the UK again tonight. And for the latest stories, sign up to GB News Alerts by scanning the QR code on your screen or go to gbnews.com/alerts. Now it's back to Nana.
Thank you, Sophia. It's fast approaching 6 minutes after 3 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua, and it's time to mark the week, and what a busy one it's been. ERG member Natalie Elphicke, possibly the most right-wing of the Tory party, crossed the floor on Wednesday before Prime Minister's questions to join the Labour Party. Steve Baker tweeted all about it. He said, "I've been searching in vain for a Conservative MP who thinks themselves to the right of Natalie Elphicke. One just quipped, I didn't realise there was any room for her right." Wow. Apart from that, unlike relatively unknown ex-Tory MP Dan Poulter, who deserted his party last month, Natalie is notorious. She initially stuck by her husband, who was convicted for 3 counts of sexual assault against 2 women. She said it was because he was too attractive. After he was sent to prison, Natalie sat in his seat. I mean, that obviously ended in divorce. And only last year she delivered a withering assessment of the Labour Party over their migration plans. So it seems odd that they then accepted her into the fold, particularly after she'd been slammed by both Angela Rayner and Rachel Reeves. I obviously can't use the language that Rachel used on this show at this time. And their faces as she crossed the floor were a picture indeed. On Friday, Sir Keir Starmer visited the constituency of Dover to make a lacklustre speech. That's her constituency, with Natalie at the helm.
Natalie Elphicke, the Labour Member of Parliament for Dover and Deal. As you all know, this week I joined the Labour Party to be part of the change our country needs. Under Rishi Sunak, the Conservatives have become a byword for incompetence and division. They have abandoned the centre ground and failed to deliver for the British people. Under Keir Starmer, Labour occupies the centre ground and looks to the future to build a Britain of hope, optimism, opportunity and fairness. A Britain everyone can be part of.
Traitor. Keir then laid out his plans on tackling migrant crossings.
Britain can do better. Labour will do better. We will end this farce. We will restore serious government to our borders, tackle this problem at source, and replace the Rwanda policy permanently. Today we launch our plan to do that. A new approach to small boat crossings that will secure Britain's borders, prevent the exploitation by tackling it upstream, and smash the criminal smuggling gangs. And as the first step in this plan, a new manifesto commitment. We will set up a new command with new powers, new resources, and a new way of doing things. Border Security Command.
Border Security Command? We've got something like that already anyway. He's going to ditch Rwanda, even though it appears to be working, and create a, what did he call it again? Border Security Command, collaborating with all the departments, including MI5. Like I said, I'm pretty sure that happens anyway. All sounded very naive and heavily orchestrated, but something like that, if it doesn't already exist, will take years. And the simple question still remains, if he's ditching Rwanda, which other EU countries are looking at with envy, where's he going to put failed asylum seekers? I bet the people smugglers can't wait for him to get into power. Sounds like he's going to clear the backlog with some sort of amnesty. Where are they all going to live? What's he going to do with that? I mean, honestly, this week interest rates remained the same, with promises of the potential cut, presumably before the next general election. Prince Harry came to town for his 10 years of Invictus, and Meghan Markle went as far as Heathrow to meet him before they both jetted off to Nigeria for a faux royal visit to one of the charities that benefited from their foundation to the tune of 20 grand.
To have our first visit to Nigeria, be here with all of you. We believe in you, we believe in your futures, we believe in your ability to continue to tell your stories and to just be honest with each other. There is no need to suffer in silence.
I thought they'd stepped away from all of that. Honestly, they've obviously got nothing to do. Then Greta Thunberg has reinvented herself as a pro-Palestine protester. It's Eurovision tonight, and the inclusion of Israel has caused quite a stir. It's been a mucky old week. Right, so coming up, comedian Lewis Schaefer will be making light of this week's top stories in Muck the Week at 3:20. It's my hot topic, my roundtable discussion. Ozempic, is it safe? At 3:35, famous Uri Geller will be here to discuss the latest from Israel. And joining me to shine a light in the political hot seat today is a Eurovision specialist. Charlie Peters reports live from Sweden. That's coming up. Tell me what you think on everything we're discussing. gbnews.com/your say. Right, Lewis Schaefer, comedian Lewis Schaefer. I say the word comedian lightly. Sorry. Laughing.
Don't say sorry, because it's too close to the truth.
Natalie Elphicke.
I mean, she's a woman. She wants to survive. I shouldn't say that. She wants to survive. I mean, she dumped her husband. She was the most right. From what I know, I don't know anything about these people. But this is what happens. She just changed team because she wants to stay in business. She wants to continue to be a prime minister. She knows she was going to lose if she stayed as a conservative. So what would you tell her to do?
Well, I'd tell her to, just stay put, or actually maybe join Reform.
Yeah.
We're probably closer to her policies. But she knows, like you said, she knows they're not probably going to win.
Yeah, exactly.
And
so what my thinking is why would they let her come into the Labour Party? Because, I mean, why would you? But then again, they know if it was a dude, they wouldn't let her come in. They wouldn't let her come in.
So if it was a guy?
I don't think they would. No, they wouldn't, because they say this is a bit weird. This guy's got no backbone or anything. It reminds me of Louis Schaefer. Just somebody who will do anything for at any time.
They accepted Dan Poulter a little while ago, although he's more eccentric. He's a doctor.
Yeah.
And he joined the party. But Keir Starmer's talking about Rwanda as well. He says he's going to scrap it and create some border force control.
Yeah, well, who knows what he's going to do? I mean, he just wants to get elected, and once he gets elected, he can do what he wants to do. This is politics. This is what you study. This is politics. They just want to stay in power. I mean, what should he do? He should take the gunboats out into the canal, into the channel. The channel. Sorry about that, and just sink. I'm not saying you should sink the ships, because that's not nice.
You can't do that.
But why can't you say that? But
Nice.
is anybody saying that?
Well, I think somebody did once say that, and they're no longer here.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't if I were you. Look, I don't think anybody should be sinking ships. Let me be quite honest. I mean, apart from the Tory party, they are a sinking ship. I don't think anyone should be, actually physically sinking ships with gunboats.
But do you want them to sink ships?
No, I want them to turn the boats back round and put them on a safe ship that they can go back. Or have cruise ships along the channel and people can go there and be protesting.
And how will they get back on the boat?
It will put people off. The idea is basically to put people off got across the channel.
Yeah, they're sending them to Rwanda. It sounds lovely to me, Rwanda. The more I know about the place, it's...
Well, they don't like it. They genuinely don't like it. And what do you think about Keir Starmer, his plan with private schools? Robbing Peter to pay Paul, we'll be talking about that later. But interest rates have stayed the same. Is this good?
Yeah, it's good for... It's better than going up. Yeah, I mean, is it good? It's up. It's gone up so much. It's gone up to a normal amount. It should cost money to borrow money. So it's ridiculous that it should go down. Would help me out.
What about Harry and Meghan, though? Do you feel bad for him?
I do feel bad for them because they're being pitted. They're being pitted against the other side of the royal family. That's what these people do. These royals. They just fight each other. I know you love the royals, but I think that I don't care what side they're on. There should be no royalty. America found that out over 200 years ago, and it's been good for America.
Well, they love our royal family, Louis Schaefer. I beg to differ.
They do not.
They do.
They do not.
They do.
They do not. You don't see Prince Harry being made King of America. He's not. They like having them around. I like the Sphinx in Cairo, but that doesn't mean I want to put in Central Park.
Well, listen. When are you back on, Louis Schaefer?
When you have me. Well, I'm on tonight. Oh, on this thing. I'm on tonight.
Headliners.
Yeah, headliners tonight. I don't even know who's on it. I'm not on it tonight. I'm not on it. I'm on tomorrow night.
He's on tomorrow night. He doesn't know when he's on. Louis Schaefer.
No, I don't know. You should look me. I love you so much. You know that. I only come here because I love you.
Louis Schaefer.
I don't want to.
Isn't he lovely? That's Louis Schaefer. It's the heat in the studio. It's probably making him go mad, although he probably already was. Welcome aboard. If you just tuned in, thank you to Louis. He'll be back tomorrow. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. Coming up, we'll be having a roundtable discussion on today's big hot topic, Ozempic. Is the drug safe?
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Dubes & Co. Weekdays from 6 p.m.
Organisations, plural, because there's loads of people doing this. The organisations are charging schools to be part of this odd league table about who's trying to outdo who when it comes to who is more trans-inclusive with the kids than the next person. There's something makes me uneasy about this.
Supposing a child comes home and says, you think, oh, I've done well today. He said, well, how have you done? They said, well, I was #1 painter, or I was #1 reader. No, I wasn't. I was made LGBT champion. This is a 4- and 5-year-old. Look, I can understand this, actually, as we develop into the secondary school. I can understand more debates taking place. I cannot understand why we have to thrust it at young children. And I think if you ask the parents, they'd be hostile to it. And what about the role the teacher has to play in all this?
Society has been one way, the pendulum is swinging the other way, and they're pushing it very far in order to kind of proliferate change. And this is probably the toughest period in that evolutionary process, because the LGBTQ plus community is saying that you've got to really rage against the machine to get people to listen. Because put it like this now, even this conversation, the whole country is listening, the whole world is listening. These are the kinds of eyeballs and ears they haven't had before. And there's going to be friction. There's going to be a locking of heads in the process to getting to a point where you establish a new equilibrium where they feel more incorporated. Like I've said, the greatest force of allies that the LGBTQ plus community has always had is heterosexual women. What you're moving towards now is doing things that is beginning to turn them from allies into people who feel that, oh, for you to thrive, I'm being deprived, and that's a problem. When they realise you're alienating allies, they will understand you've got to recalibrate to have that kind of understanding between both parties.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good afternoon. It's just coming up to 18 minutes after 3 o'clock. This is GB News. We are the People's Channel. I'm Nana Akua. Now, it is time for my roundtable discussion, and it's all about Ozempic, the weight loss drug, which is making waves, and it's been doing that for the last few months. But is it really the miracle that some have hyped it up to be? Side effects such as hair loss, eating disorders... All right, I'm bald under here, so it's fine. No, I'm not really. Eating disorders, even psychiatric episodes have all been reported. And this comes as diabetics are struggling to get their hands on it for prescriptions. So is Ozempic really safe? Well, joining me now is Dr. Rennie Hondenkamp, GP and medical writer, Lizzie Cundy, broadcaster and columnist, and George Keywood, actor and body positivity influencer. Well, I'm going to start with you, Rennie. Rennie. I feel like I'm on an hello. Rennie. So what do you think about this Ozempic? Is it safe, and is it a useful drug?
Right. So, first of all, it's a very useful drug for people that have diabetes, and that's where it should stay. So in terms of safety, not only the things that you've mentioned are being reported now, psychosis in some patients, hair loss, but there are known side effects already, as there are with any drug, let's face it. So we know that most people on it will get gastrointestinal disturbance, which hopefully will settle, but diarrhoea, vomiting, nausea. Thereafter, there's a chance of pancreatitis, about 1 in 100, which I think is quite high. Now, once you've had pancreatitis, you are at an increased risk for about 3 years of having pancreatic cancer. So you're at an increased risk for that, which is a deadly cancer. There is an association with thyroid cancer. In the mice it was given to, they got thyroid cancer. And there are various other things as well. So, firstly, no, and it gives you between a 5 and a 20% weight loss over 68 months. But the moment you stop taking it, your appetite returns and you will put that weight back on. So it's then a lifelong drug. So you're going to be on a drug that has risks of cancer and other risks for life. The only people that are happy about this, or should be happy about it, are the big pharma companies. Why does anyone think they are putting such effort into research in drugs for weight loss? Because the biggest problem we have now is obesity, and for them it's a cash cow.
George, what are your thoughts on it? Because Ozempic, this could be a useful drug for maybe somebody in your position who wants to lose weight.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's disappointing because for plus-size people who are desperate to receive that drug to help them with their weight loss journey, they're not getting it because people who have money to spend and waste are just sourcing it from elsewhere. And you know, we've got people that are now having eating disorders from this drug as well, so it's kind of doing the opposite effect of what it was intended for. So it's quite sad, you know, for a plus-size person who would benefit from this. It's disappointing to see that it's going to the wrong type of people.
Would you like to be taking it?
I mean, me in particular, I probably wouldn't want to. You know, I say if you can't do it yourself, then it's probably best not to do it.
But I mean, it could be life-saving for people who should be taking it.
Yeah, I mean, people in a really dangerous situation in terms of their health, then by all means take anything that will improve your health. But, you know, you can still do it yourself if you're young. You know, I'm only 30 years old now, so I still got a bit of time in me to really do it myself. I've got a treadmill at home. I do 60 minutes a day. I've lost 8.5 stone in a year.
Wow.
You know, I used to be a big boy. I'm big now.
Just how big were you?
Well, 30 plus stone.
Wow.
You know, and I'm now under that.
How did you get to that? Was it simply just eating a bad diet?
I think it's a mixture of various things. You know, my dad died, you know, when I was only 21 years old. Like, there's various different things throughout my life what sort of put me in that situation. You know, acting careers go up and down.
Yeah, you're an actor. It's
a tough industry, you know, so I think there's many things where even when you're doing really well, you're stuffing your face because you've got lots of money in the bank and you're going wild, you know. It's a really hard balance, you know, because you've got to eat to live.
Lizzie Cundy, like, you know, lots of celebrities are on this drug. Oprah has just now apologised publicly for, you know, pretty much swindling us all by making out that she's losing weight through diet and exercise when it turns out that she was using all sorts of things.
Well, Oprah, I'm really shocked at, because for me, she was a role model, someone I looked up growing up, and this is a really toxic role model because this drug is dangerous and it's addictive, and sadly, there are many of the stars out there that, you know, kids really look up to, you know, that are using this and want to be slim like them. We saw Kim Kardashian at the Met Gala with this tiny little waist. You know, she's apparently on it, Robbie Williams, Sharon Osbourne, Jessica Simpson. And when you look at them, sadly, they do not look well. And I've many friends in showbiz world that are on this drug and now can't get off it because they are scared. As soon as they get off this drug, they're going to put the weight back on. And sadly, as Renee has just said, it's dangerous, it's not good for your body. My friend had terrible symptoms of sickness, hair was coming out. She actually lost her bottom. She had to sit on a rubber ring and cushion because her bones were actually sticking out. And you don't know where it kind of, you want to lose fat maybe on your tummy, it will go in places you don't want, you know, mainly on your face.
We've
and
seen
it ages
the Ozempic
you.
face,
yeah.
But you yourself had an eating disorder, which
I've been very open about, as a teenager, I had an eating disorder, and I think if I could probably have got my hands on this drug, I would have taken it. And that is the worry. There are many people out there, many of my friends that are taking this drug and should not be on it.
Well, listen, I want to go over to Steve Miller from Fat Families. I used to love that show.
Oh, yes.
or The Secret Eaters, which is another one that he used to do. I love that. The people say, I don't know why I've got so fat. What have I been doing? The camera sort of follows them around and watches them chucking sweet wrappers and food as they stuff their face. I loved it. Steve Miller, he joins us now. Steve,
how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, tremendous. It just seems like we're all going to agree on this debate. And everything, isn't it interesting that everything's about having a prick these days? You know, it's all about injections and jabs. No, but the one thing I have to say is on their website, they actually make it clear that it's not a weight loss drug. To be fair to them, they make it clear it's all about diabetes, helping people with diabetes. So you know, I give them a credit there. But what they also do is they're transparent and say that, you know, they're unsure whether it could cause and trigger cancers. They're unsure, you know, in terms of how much weight you can lose. Up to 14 pounds seems to be what they claim. So I think we do have to be careful. There are other serious potential side effects that the doctor, Renee, has outlined, you know, from kidney problems, kidney failure, gallbladder problems. And then when I read about tumours and I read about cancers. Now, you're right, the doc's right, in that, you know, all drugs have potential side effects. So we have to use a bit of common sense. My common sense, based on what I've read in the press and what I've read from Ozempic, says this is a last resort.
It's
and the best way to do it is eat more fresh air, love yourself more than you love a trifle, try and, you know, turn your back on the pork pie, and get yourself more, feed your mind rather than your mush.
Well,
that's what we should be doing.
Well, it's true. Thank you very much to Steve Miller. That family's very wise words from Steve. Now, Renee, the other thing that they were linking obesity with is cancer.
Yeah.
And recently a report said that at least 50%, was it? Yeah, about 50% of cancers are partially down to, or there's some...
So this is because when you are overweight, your body's in a constant state of inflammation. So you're already fighting that. So it becomes less easy to fight other things that your immune system would normally get on top of. And I think that the message that I would also like to say, and you might agree with me on this, it's not as simple as just cutting out your food. You need to change your food. People need to stop eating processed food, because I believe that the evil in society that has led these people here, so it's not really even their fault, is that processed food is everywhere, almost everything. So we need to be going back to cooking ourselves from fresh ingredients, obviously eating less and getting out more. But until we crack this reliance that we have, 60% of the average British diet is processed, and for some people it's 80%. We will not crack the obesity problem.
Do you eat a lot of processed food?
Yeah,
you do. I can see the admission coming. I can see
think we all do, though. You know,
I really don't. No, I genuinely don't.
Well, maybe I do. I mean, I think it's a very difficult one, isn't it? I mean, I think it's down to portion size as well, because if you just cut down, like that's what I've been doing. I've just been having miniature cans of Coca-Cola instead of full size ones.
I don't.
I know.
I don't. Actually, if I do drink Coca-Cola, I'll drink the proper fat one, because I don't like. I don't like saccharin and all the other things. I think they are triggers for neurological disorders. I also think they're triggers for affecting the way you metabolize food. I don't think they're very sensible, and your body wants sugar after you've eaten it because it thinks it's sugar and it isn't.
I mean, it's an addiction, isn't it? Food is an addiction.
Yes,
I mean, and I think this is the issue, isn't it? It's trying to stop yourself from doing something that you want to do, and it's trying to stop yourself from doing something that you have to do. And it's about picking the right things. But I think sometimes it's down to your financial situation that puts you in that situation as well, because you don't have enough money to go and buy nice food.
No, I think it's a bit of a myth, because if I buy a chicken and cook it in the week, it will last my daughter's school lunch for the entire week with some rice.
I was going to say, you're not giving it to the bread. Is it wholemeal rice?
We don't have bread.
Is it wholemeal rice?
It's basmati, which is as good as...
Oh, nice. We're coming over to Renee's for tea, I think.
So I cook everything, but it does take organisation. But once you're into the pattern, it's really easy. But I think people are just led by... Please don't underestimate the power of the sugar industry, the power of the advertising industry to lead people where they want them to be.
And I actually think on fast foods, it should say, like on cigarettes, what the harm it does for you. And I think exercise, sports, kids don't do enough anymore. They're sitting there on their PlayStations, just easily snacking away, and parents need to have a really big responsibility. But also we need to look at the psychological reasons why people want this drug, because sadly, people that are on it, some of my friends are so depressed, suicidal thoughts. What it's doing to you mentally, not just physically, is so damaging. And those that are, giving this drug out are really irresponsible. And it's a really big worry.
It's weird, though, because Sharon Osbourne wasn't particularly fat anyway.
No.
So she didn't really need to do that. I mean, she wasn't obese, was she? She wasn't.
No.
There's nothing... And now I can see that she kind of regrets it in a way, because she can't put the fat back on no matter what she eats. And that's very frightening.
But sadly, once you're on this drug, you really can't get off. It's addictive, and that's the worry. And then in your head, you're thinking, as soon as I go off it, I'm going to start eating again and put on the weight. It's a vicious circle.
Do you know, I would even say that if we're going to spend money in the NHS on helping people who are overweight, I would much prefer that they had bariatric surgery, because that is a lifelong solution. And it's not one that has the side effects of this drug. Yes, it has some surgical side effects at the time, but once you're past it, that's it.
But can't you get yourself... but then would you consider bariatric surgery? Is that the way
I've been offered by 2 surgeons for free, actually. But I think the thing what's stopping me is the risk, or you could die from it. It is a serious operation to have. And I think in the right country, maybe yes, but in some countries, maybe not a great idea. I've heard recently that someone died in Turkey from having the operation.
But don't go to Turkey.
No, I know, but, a lot of people will.
The country should be a clue there. You see turkey teeth? I don't have my teeth.
They're pretty bad. I'd rather keep my teeth, to be honest.
People are going to die from their obesity. It is weighing up the long-term risk of that. And also, I've seen a patient lose 12 stone after bariatric surgery, and she said to me, I've got my life back. You know.
I mean, some people don't know what their life is, though, do they? It's like giving them a new life. But
we need to help more on the mental health front. That's what it is.
Key point as well.
Before giving out drugs willy-nilly.
Yeah, well, listen, and we don't want Ozempic face as well. A lot of them have got this sort of gaunt-like ghost face because they've just basically they're stuck on it. But listen, thank you so much to the brilliant Dr. Rennie Hunderkamp, Lizzie Cundy, broadcaster and columnist George Keywood, actor and body positivity influencer, and Steve Miller. Right, so if you just tuned in, welcome. It's 32 minutes after 3 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. Coming up for my monologue, Nana's niggle, as I like to call it. You've got to be careful with that one. As Sir Keir Starmer's plan to rob Peter to pay Paul is unravelling before our very eyes. But first, let's get your latest headlines with Aaron.
Hi there, very good afternoon to you. It is 3:32. I'm Aaron Armstrong. The Dutch contestant has been kicked out of the Eurovision Song Contest. The European Broadcasting Union says Joost Klein will not compete in the grand final, while Swedish police investigate a complaint of inappropriate behaviour by a female member of the production crew. He'd been amongst the favourites to win it. Meanwhile, security's been tightened ahead of tonight's show as pro-Palestinian protests continue. Demonstrators are already gathering in Malmo. They're protesting against Israel's participation in the event. Its entrant, Eden Golan, has qualified for tonight's show. She's amongst the leading contenders to win, but bookmakers have placed Croatia's Baby Lasagna as the favourite. 2 men have been arrested on suspicion of murder after 2 women died in a house fire in Wolverhampton. Emergency services were called to a property in the Dunstall Hill area at 2 a.m. West Midlands Fire Service say 3 other people were taken to hospital and a 6th person was discharged at the scene. A 54-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of murder after a police officer was shot in the leg with a crossbow in High Wycombe. The suspect was shot by an armed officer and is now in hospital under police supervision with potentially life-changing injuries. And the Northern Lights put on a rare display across the UK last night as one of the strongest geomagnetic storms hit the planet for years, caused by charged particles hitting the different gases in the atmosphere. They're normally only seen in the far north of the country. Well, if you missed it, you're in luck. There might be another opportunity to see them later on this evening. And you can sign up to our GB News alerts, scan the QR code on your screen or go to our website for more details. Now back to Nana.
Thank you, Aaron. Now, there's still plenty of time to win our biggest cash prize so far, a whopping 20 grand. Imagine having that in your bank account this summer. But you've got to get into the draw for your chance to win. Here's how you can do it.
Don't miss your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far. A totally terrific £20,000 in tax-free cash to make your summer spectacular. You could use that cash to splash out on a holiday, make the garden glam, buy a new car, or just save it for a rainy day. Whatever you'd spend £20,000 on, make sure you don't miss the chance to make it yours. For another chance to win £20,000 in tax-free cash, text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB05 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 31st of May. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the quaint Derbyshire village of Sudbury, there's a storm brewing between the local football club and the National Trust.
This grass field might seem unremarkable, but for hundreds of years it's been part of the Sudbury Hall estate, playing host to the village football and cricket matches. Now the National Trust are planning to put an end to that tradition in the name of biodiversity, with plans for trees and plants where the football club play. Some worry it breaks a memorandum of wishes from the late Lord Vernon, whose family have lived here since 1660. Manager of Sudbury FC Tom Crutchley says he's upset at the decision.
Naturally disappointed. We've been here, this is our 9th year. We've put a lot of effort into here to keep playing, to maintain it. I'm from the village originally, so personally it was, it is very upsetting.
MP for Derbyshire Dale Sarah Dines says the National Trust aren't respecting the history of the site.
I feel they're trampling over the wishes of historic owners who gave up this wonderful site for the nation. And for over 100 years people have played football and cricket here. It's incredibly sad. Incredibly sad, and it's against the wishes of a lot of people locally who've written to me from the village.
Sudbury Hall lives under the branding of the Children's Country House, a decision which Dines says is disrespectful to the history of the estate.
I mean, this is fake to make it into a children's theme park. It's almost a reimagining, and in fact that's the very words it says on their website. The house is reopened, it's been reimagined. I don't want our heritage to be reimagined. I think the National Trust has been captured by people who have different ideas than most people in this country.
Whilst the public will still be able to roam these historic grounds, the village feels like a legacy is being snatched away. Jack Carson, GB News, Sudbury.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall? Let's find out together. For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
Welcome back. This is GB News. We are the People's Channel. I'm Nana Akua. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Don't forget to download the GB News app as well. But next, I've got Charlie Peters. He's going to be in my political hot seat. I'm going to have him in now because next Monday marks a very special day for the State of Israel as it marks its Independence Day amid some of the toughest times in recent years. Thousands are presently protesting outside tonight's Eurovision venue. In Sweden and international politics, there are also tensions as this week saw US President Joe Biden threaten to withdraw weapons supplies to Israel if they undertake a unilateral invasion of the city of Rafah. Right, let's go live to Tel Aviv and speak to performer and mystifier Uri Geller for the latest on the ground in Israel. Uri, thank you very much for joining me.
Hi, Nana. If you will allow me, I'll start my conversation about the Eurovision. Because look, Nana, you know, I love talking about aliens. Well, in Eurovision tonight, it looks like they have just landed. Look, I don't mind what anyone looks like. I don't. But the Irish singer, she said, listen, they cried when they heard Israel had got into the final. So whatever planet Bambi Thug comes from, well, they can go straight back there. Actually, we are all very excited here in Israel about Eurovision because, you know, Nana, this is no ordinary Eurovision. This is a battleground. As you know, the same people who march in London every weekend calling for Israel's destruction tried to get Israel kicked out of the competition. Now, our singer, she's called Eden Golan. She's 20 years old, and it is shocking. She cannot even leave her room. She cannot leave her hotel room in case she gets attacked. And it is true, all because she's Israeli and she's Jewish. So tonight, we are holding our breath. If Eden wins, it will show all the haters that ordinary peace-loving people reject all of that. And they stand with Israel. And do you know what else? There are 100 Swedish policemen. They are taking her to the hall with guns. They're escorting Eden Golan with guns to the hall. Look, Nana, as you know, I have special powers, and I'm going to bombard my TV with all the energy that I have to will Eden to win. And I'm begging your viewers to do it too. Israel got to win. Now look, I'm going to show you something else. Look, Nana, the fact that the protesters who are against Eden Golan also want Israel to lose the war. And this week, something unbelievable happened. You just mentioned it. The same people who hate Britain as much as they hate Israel got a gift from none other than the President of the United States, Joe Biden. For the first time ever, a US president threatened to stop supporting Israel military in the middle of a war. Now, look, yes, Joe Biden said if Israel goes to Rafah, where all the hostages are, including British hostages, they're held there, he will not give Israel the weapons it needs to do it. Now, none of this is absolutely shocking. America, under this president, has betrayed us. It betrayed Israel. The hostages need to be released, and Biden should be ashamed. Now, finally, look at this. Nana, I'm actually quite jealous because you were treated to a spectacular light show across Britain last night. I'm holding a photo of my Lamb Island in Scotland. If you remember, I bought an island 18 years ago. The pictures of the Northern Lights in the UK are amazing. It looks like something from outer space. So that's my Lamb Island. And Nana, as I always end the show with you, I send you and all your amazing viewers lots of love, positive energy, and let's see what happens tonight. I love you all.
Uri, thank you so much. I hope Israel will win. I don't normally vote, but I think I'm going to do it tonight. And of course, thank you for Uri Geller, his thoughts on what's happening in Israel. Really good to talk to you. Brilliant, Uri Geller. Right, well, what are you going to do? Who are you going to vote for? What do you think? Charlie Peters will be in the political hot seat in a few moments' time to shine a light on Eurovision and why a song contest has become so political. Political Spotlight is next.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast on the Met Office. We're looking ahead to the rest of this weekend. A change is in store. We start to say goodbye to this area of high pressure, and low pressure begins to take charge as we head towards next week. But back to the here and now, we still have some fairly fine and settled weather as we end Saturday, so a pleasant end to the day. Some low cloud and mist just moving in from the east, but for many, it's another fairly good chance to see the northern lights tonight, especially across more northern parts of the country. And for all of us, it's going to be a fairly mild night. Most towns and cities staying firmly in double figures. So we do start off Sunday with some low cloud and some mist across the east. That will gradually burn its way back towards the North Sea. Elsewhere, plenty of sunshine as we go through the course of the morning, and then into the afternoon we start to see some scattered showers develop, and these will then turn quite thundery and heavy in places. There are warnings in force from the Met Office as we go through the course of tomorrow, so do watch out if you are travelling about. But in the sunshine, highs reaching 26 or 27 degrees. Then as we move into next week, we start to see low pressure take charge. This band of rain will move in during the course of Monday across the southwest, giving a very wet picture here. Elsewhere, a mixture of sunny spells and showers, but as we go in towards the middle part of the week, temperatures will fall back down to where they should be for the time of year.
We're GB News, and we come from a proud tradition of British journalism.
That's why I'm so excited to be here. It's something so new.
The first news channel to be launched in Britain in over 30 years.
Launched to represent the views of the British people.
To go where other broadcasters refuse to go.
How did you find out about the story in the first place?
Launched with one aim.
To be the fearless champion of Britain.
It's an absolutely fantastic atmosphere here.
This is GB News. The People's Channel.
GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry, Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Welcome to GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. If you just joined me, I'm Nana Akua, and it's time for this week's Political Spotlight. And joining me to shine a light live from Sweden, Eurovision is tonight, but some fear that the camp spectacular is already marred in controversy. Many people are calling for Israel to be booted out of the competition due to the ongoing conflict in Gaza. And the website states that peaceful protest is allowed, and that they are firm advocates for freedom of speech and the right for people to express their deeply held views and opinions. Joining me is GB News reporter Charlie Peters to shine a light. Charlie Peters, you're there. You got a nice free trip to Sweden. Is the weather nice there?
Well, it's turned a bit here in Malmö in southern Sweden as a pro-Palestinian protest makes its way from the town centre towards the arena where Eurovision will be hosted tonight. Behind me you can see some smoke flares that have been set off by the protesters here as a banner that says "Glitter doesn't hide genocide" makes its way, organised by Queers for Palestine, a protest group here. They have argued that Israel is organising a genocide in its war in Gaza. This has been a claim made by several people calling on Israel to be banned from the Eurovision Song Contest. Eden Galan, the act who will be performing tonight for Israel, went through on that semi-final 2 nights ago with a significant chunk of the vote. She has reportedly been stuck between her hotel room and the arena due to security fears, with protesters also gathering not just here in the city centre, but also outside where she's staying. The head of Shin Bet, the Israeli version of MI5, has reportedly flown in personally to Sweden to monitor her security situation, which is a significant step. At the same time, today Eurovision has fallen into chaos. Earlier today, the Dutch contestant was disqualified from the event. The first time this has happened in Eurovision history, a disqualification on the day of the grand final. That brought down the number to 25 contestants after an alleged incident on Thursday evening. Further, we've also seen some stark comments by other contestants today in the final dress rehearsal. The French performer paused midway through his song to deliver a speech about peace. The motto of this Eurovision competition this year is "United by Music." But it's clear that many people here do not feel as though that is occurring. We've also heard from the Irish contestant who said that they were very concerned about comments made towards them on the Israeli broadcaster and urged some investigation into that situation. And finally, in Norway, the person who was meant to be doing the jury votes for the Norwegian public broadcaster has announced in the last few hours that they will not be carrying out that role. So with just a few hours before Eurovision starts, and as pro-Palestinian protesters march towards that arena, it's clear that as 160 million prepare to tune in, Eurovision is in chaos.
Eurovision's supposed to be a cheerful, happy occasion where it was set up to unite Europe and set up to be a unifying force. It appears to have turned into almost political ridiculousness. I mean, this is about a war that has happened because of an incident that happened on October the 7th. And Israel has a right to defend itself. I'm not saying that they're right to whatever they're doing, but it just seems wrong, especially the notion that Queers for Palestine. I mean, Palestine, I don't think, is very welcoming to homosexuals, so I just find it very odd. But Charlie, have you managed to speak to some of the people there, and are you hearing what their thoughts are? Because a lot of these people are totally ill-educated on the situation there.
It's many of the standard pro-Palestinian chants you might hear on marches around the world, in particular in London, of course, where this has been occurring every other weekend since October the 8th, when many protesters first gathered after that Hamas attack on southern Israel. The march here has drawn to a close in terms of the end of its march in the city centre. It will now continue to the main arena where the competition is taking place. Now, as you said, there's been a concern about political involvement in Eurovision. This is meant to be a non-political event. It's about music, united by music being the motto. But Eurovision has always had to tread carefully with politics in the past. And indeed, 2 years ago, the competition, the EBUs, the organiser, the European Broadcast Union, did remove Russia from the competition after its full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Many critics of Israel say that because that precedent has been set, Israel should also be removed from the competition. By contrast, supporters of Israel have said that actually Israel was responding to Hamas on October the 7th, and that Israel is the Ukraine in this situation, not the other way around. So those contested views very much being heard here. We spoke to some Israelis earlier today. I have to say, very few Israelis gathering today. Many more pro-Palestinian protesters here in Malmö in southern Sweden. So just a few hours to go now until the competition gets away in earnest. The grand final, with so much chaos in that final dress rehearsal. What can we expect tonight in the actual 160 million view global performance?
Do we have any idea who are the hot favourites to win tonight?
Well, the Dutch performer with his song Euro Papa was put down as a fan favourite, but with his disqualification, that has thrown more agitation and uncertainty into the scenario here. The Croatian performer is set to be a fan favourite, and Israel, actually, Eden Galan's performance is currently on the betting odds second place. By contrast, Ollie Alexander for Britain is currently being shown at 1% chance of victory tonight for Great Britain.
So what do you think? It's nil points for Britain then. And have you had a chance to watch Ollie Alexander's entry?
Sorry, Nana, I didn't quite catch
I said, have you had a chance to watch our entry, Ollie Alexander, Great Britain? Have you had a chance to look at it?
Yeah, I have, and I think he's a fantastic performer. I think he's going to be received very positively here. But the overshadow across all the music, unfortunately, for many Eurovision fans, isn't that the songs are centre stage. It's all about the political protests surrounding the concert. People aren't focusing on the music here. It's not united by music, many critics are arguing. Instead, it's a big focus on a war in the Near East.
Well, listen, Charlie Peters, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. We will catch up with you throughout the show with further updates. That's Charlie Peters. He's out there in Sweden. Well, lots of you have been getting in touch at gbnews.com/your say. Let's see, who's this? They've not put their name. Nelson says, Eurovision should not be about politics. You should vote for your favourite song. Geez, he says, personally, I don't watch it anymore as it's gone over the top. It has, actually. Our entry is exactly no example of that. And then somebody says, no, I never watch Eurovision, but this year I'm voting for Israel, like a lot of people. Who will you be voting for? Well, listen, coming up, I'll be joined by my amazing panel, Matthew Larser and Lizzie Cundy. Next, though, my monologue, Nana's niggle, as Sir Keir Starmer's plan to rob Peter to pay Paul is unravelling before our very eyes.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast on the Met Office. We're looking ahead to the rest of this weekend. A change is in store. We start to say goodbye to this area of high pressure, and low pressure begins to take charge as we head towards next week. But back to the here and now, we still have some fairly fine and settled weather as we end Saturday, so a pleasant end to the day. Some low cloud and mist just moving in from the east, but for many, it's another fairly good chance to see the northern lights tonight, especially across more northern parts of the country. And for all of us, it's going to be a fairly mild night, most towns and cities staying firmly in double figures. So we do start off Sunday with some low cloud and some mist across the east. That will gradually burn its way back towards the North Sea. Elsewhere, plenty of sunshine as we go through the course of the morning, and then into the afternoon we start to see some scattered showers develop, and these will then turn quite thundery and heavy in places. There are warnings in force from the Met Office as we go through the course of tomorrow, so do watch out if you are travelling about. But in the sunshine, highs reaching 26 or 27 degrees. Then as we move into next week, we start to see low pressure take charge. This band of rain will move in during the course of Monday across the southwest, giving a very wet picture here. Elsewhere, a mixture of sunny spells and showers, but as we go in towards the middle part of the week, temperatures will fall back down to where they should be for the time of year.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
This is GB News. We are the People's Channel. More to come in the next hour. I'm Nana Akua. My niggle, Nana's niggle, is on the way next. The Sir Keir Starmer's plan to rob Peter to pay Paul is unravelling before our eyes. Stay tuned for that.
Don't miss your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far. A totally terrific £20,000 in tax-free cash to make your summer spectacular. You could use that cash to splash out on a holiday, make the garden glam, buy a new car, or just save it for a rainy day. Whatever you'd spend £20,000 on, make sure you don't miss the chance to make it yours. For another chance to win £20,000 in tax-free cash, text PRIZE to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB05, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 31st of May. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threats on.
Our job is to do what's in the best interest of our country.
You made my argument for me.
My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter, with a sharp take on every story.
I'm hearing it up and down the country. That was a beginning, not an end.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio, and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel.
We're GB News, and we come from a proud tradition of British journalism.
That's why I'm so excited to be here. It's something so new.
The first news channel to be launched in Britain in over 30 years.
Launched to represent the views of the British people.
To go where other broadcasters refuse to go.
How did you find out about the story in the first place?
Launched with one aim.
To be the fearless champion of Britain.
It's an absolutely fantastic atmosphere here.
This is GB News.
GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to GB News on this beautiful hot day. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua, and for the next 2 hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me today is former Labour Party advisor Matthew Lala. He's given everybody a cold, so I can can do that to him. And also broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy. Also coming up for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, does Starmer's immigration plan get your vote? Difficult conversations with former gambling addict and mental health advocate Haj Ghani will be joining me live in the studio. He lost over 250 grand. Oh. And then, in my Royal Roundup, the one and only Angela Levin with the latest from behind the palace walls. But first, let's get your latest news headlines.
Very good afternoon to you. It is 4 o'clock. I'm Aaron Armstrong in the GB newsroom. The Dutch act has been kicked out of the Eurovision Song Contest grand final. The EBU, the European Broadcasting Union, says Joost Klein won't compete while Swedish police investigate a complaint of inappropriate behaviour by a female member of the production crew. Meanwhile, security has been tightened ahead of tonight's show as pro-Palestinian protests continue. The demonstrators are gathering in Malmö. They're walking through the old town centre towards the event venue. They're rallying against Israel's participation in the event. The country's entry, Eden Golan, has qualified for tonight's final. She's amongst the leading contenders to win, but bookmakers have placed Croatia's baby Lasagna as the favourite. Here's what the fans have been saying.
I think it's great that the EBU didn't back down cowardly from the protesters, and they included Israel and didn't tamper with votes or anything. They let them through the final.
I understand it. I personally disagree with their involvement, and a lot of the stuff that's happened in the past 24 hours generally in Eurovision, like with the possible disqualification of the Dutch representative, all the videos coming out from inside the arena in general, it's become a bit too much.
We're here to enjoy the stuff. Bambi's here to enjoy it, and we're not bringing politics into it.
I'm not particularly political, so I tend to stay out of it. And I think a competition like this, it's about bringing people together, not trying to cause a lot of diversity. So division. I just don't think that's the right kind of attitude to have about Eurovision.
We have managed to avoid most of anything that's going on, and I think, to be fair, it's been a little bit exaggerated by broadcasting. No, nothing against you guys.
The Israeli army has ordered new evacuation orders for various parts of the Gaza Strip as it expands its military operation. And more neighbourhoods in Rafah have been told to move to western parts of Gaza. Around 300,000 Palestinians have already left. But Israeli forces have also issued a large-scale evacuation order for parts of northern Gaza, prompting fears of a military assault on two fronts. The UK and its allies have warned Israel against carrying out an operation in Rafah. Two men have been arrested on suspicion of murder after two women died in a house fire in Wolverhampton. Emergency services were called to a property in the Dunstall Hill area at 2 a.m. West Midlands Fire Service says 3 other people were injured and taken to hospital, and a 6th person was discharged at the scene. A police officer has been shot in the leg with a crossbow in Buckinghamshire. The officer was responding to reports of a stabbing in High Wycombe last night. A 54-year-old man's been arrested on suspicion of attempted murder. He was shot by an armed officer, and he is now in hospital under police supervision with potentially life-threatening injuries. Drivers are being warned to only travel on the M25 in Surrey if absolutely necessary. It follows an unprecedented closure of the motorway, with 5 miles between junctions 9 and 10 closed to traffic until 6 a.m. on Monday. It has created a 19-mile diversion, which is causing delays. It is the first scheduled daytime shutdown of all lanes on the M25 since it opened in 1986. Brits heading to Mallorca or Ibiza this summer may be rethinking their holiday plans. It is as authorities on the Balearic Islands crack down on excessive drinking in some tourist hotspots. That could be a problem. The move is in response to complaints from locals who've been reporting unacceptable behaviour, including visitors climbing into people's homes. The sale of alcohol will be banned from 9:30 in the evening to 8 in the morning. The Northern Lights lit up the skies across Britain last night as one of the strongest geomagnetic storms hit the planet for years. Caused by charged particles hitting the various gases in the Earth's atmosphere, they're normally only seen in the far north of the country. Well, if you missed the display last night, good news. You may well be able to see it again in some parts of the UK tonight. So good luck to you if you're staying up late for the latest stories. You can sign up to GB News Alerts. The QR code's on your screen. The details are on our website, gbnews.com. Now, back to Nana.
Good afternoon. It's fast approaching 6 minutes after 4 o'clock. If you've just joined us, where have you been? This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Sir Keir Starmer's plan to rob Peter to pay Paul is unravelling before his very eyes, and I'm glad to see the Labour leader's policies being tested in the real world. You see, Keir's policy to invigorate the flagging state schools sector involves charging VAT on private schools or independent schools, and that is a cool 20% increase in fees to parents in one hit. He plans to use the money that he gets from this and fund the state sector. Although, if he'd looked into it a bit more thoroughly, even I know that private schools often help out the state sector, sharing facilities and putting back into the community. My mum's local private school, which is in fact my old boarding school, sends out a minibus for the elderly to give them lunch free of charge. I know this because they pick up my mum and she tells them to watch my show when she gets there. She goes, "You must watch my daughter's programme." In fact, they're probably all watching it now. So hello, good afternoon. I'm Gina's daughter. Keir should have also noticed that many independent schools are struggling to get by as it is. They're not all like Eton, and the majority of parents are foregoing many things and working all hours God sends so that their kids don't have to. You see, if Sir John Curtis is correct, when he pretty much, which he pretty much always is, and Keir, he said that Keir has pretty much, I think it's 99.9% chance of winning the next general election, and if Keir does become Prime Minister, unfortunately for him, in anticipation of this prospect before he's even in office, his projected income for this plan is unravelling before his very eyes as parents decide not to go private. In fact, it's already beginning to bite. Enrolments to these schools have already fallen by 2.7% and are set to fall further in September. The Independent Schools Council, who have been collecting data on new starters for over a decade, reported this as the biggest annual drop since it began collecting its data in 2011. Now, the body represents almost 1,400 private schools, and experts say that the policy could result in as many of them closing down. Julie Robinson, the chief exec of the ISC, said, "You can see the change in our census already, and new parents for this year are asking about that. You hear them speaking ahead as the head teachers hear them saying." Now, she also went on to say the majority of families are dual-income households who can just about afford fees comfortably, and are starting to see already the impact of that looming on the horizon. So, in coming up with this oh-so-ridiculous plan before Keir has even taken office, the independent school sector is already feeling the brunt of his master plan. If he's not careful in trying to rob Peter to pay Paul, Keir might have single-handedly destroyed both by burdening an already overloaded state system and depriving the private sector, resulting in only the super-rich, who make a very small percentage of the population, being able to afford private education, thereby widening further the divide between the rich and poor, good and bad. And that's not to say that state schools are bad. In fact, many are exceptional. But the burden of yet more students and the ever-diminishing return of Keir's plan will mean their resources will be even more stretched. I guess he couldn't see that would be the outcome looking over from his North London ivory tower from inside his comfortable Westminster bubble. It was pretty obvious to most of us who live in the real world. Talk about destroying both sectors with one blow. The irony, of course, Sir Keir Starmer benefiting from a private education. When his school became a fee-paying one, he was allowed to stay on and his fees were paid. There's a lot of drawbridge pulling up going on in the Labour Party of late. Well done, Sir Keir. I think this would probably be a wise time for one of your legendary flip-flops, don't you? Yeah, exactly. But before we get stuck into the debate, here's what else is coming up today. For the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, does Starmer's immigration plan get your vote? This week, Sir Keir unveiled Labour's plans to use new counter-terrorism powers to tackle people smuggling gangs. So the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, does that get your vote? Then at 4:50, it's Royal Roundup time. Angela Levin will be here to give us the latest from behind the palace walls. On the menu, Harry returns to the UK for his 10th anniversary of the Invictus Games. He skipped a meeting with his father and instead he flew to Nigeria, where he met Meghan, I think, at Heathrow, actually, before he went to Nigeria. And then at 5, it's this week's difficult conversation. Harge Gailey, former gambling addict and mental health advocate, will be live in the studio. That's coming up in the next hour. Tell me what you think on everything we're discussing. Get in touch via gbnews.com/your say or tweet me at GBNews. Right, let's get started. Let's welcome my panel. Former Labour advisor Matthew Laza and also broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy. Right, Matthew Laza, it's your great leader, Sir Keir Starmer, as a former Labour Party advisor. He's your lead man.
He is. He's doing a very good job.
You think this is a good plan? What are your thoughts on this plan?
So I think that it's a perfectly sensible plan. I think it's not fair that the 7% of Britain's school kids go to private schools, and it's not fair that they're subsidised by the other 93%.
In what way are they subsidised? Because the parents who are paying are ultimately subsidising the state sector because their kids aren't going to state school.
It's a great myth that that's one of the...
Well, it's paid through taxes, isn't it?
It's paid through taxes, but there is actually spare capacity in the state sector at the moment. Actually, one of the issues is falling school rolls in many places because the birth rates decline. So there's plenty of capacity in the state sector, particularly in the places...
This is not true, Matthew, and it's not true because I used to lecture around schools all across the country, and been doing it for 8 years, and the classes were to brimming point, and there was not extra capacity, especially with mass migration.
Yeah, what's happened is that because of the birth rate in many areas, particularly in the areas where private schools are, which tend to be outside of the inner cities, which tend to be in smaller cities. So look, it is our state schools took a cut that was bigger than the cost that state education would be. So I think that it's time for our private schools to start looking at state schools and how they can deliver high standards for less. Because it's about fairness and giving everybody a fair chance.
That the state schools, the private schools should look at state schools. It's the other way around, isn't it?
No, I think they should look at state schools because what happened is that state schools took a cut that was bigger than the cut that private schools would take if they didn't charge past the VAT cut on during the austerity years. And actually, until COVID, standards in state schools continued to climb. Obviously, COVID impacted everybody, and now they're sort of getting back where they were. But that's another discussion. But in terms of being able to do the same job for less money, state schools did that during the thing. So you know what? So maybe the old private school is going to have to not have the fancy new swimming pool or the fancy new drama block paid for by the kids who go to school, which isn't a fancy school.
This is not true. This is not true. It's also a misrepresentation because not all private schools are big, luxurious schools. I think you're thinking about the Eton. No, a lot of them are for those with special needs or special educational needs.
Absolutely, and I think that Labour needs to make sure that the policy is sensibly applied. I think there's an issue about whether or not schools for special educational needs and others, which are independent schools, but are fulfilling a particular role.
But that's eating away at the amount of money.
Well, yes, it will, but that's sensible. But the truth of the matter is that for the vast majority of state schools are there because because parents want us to subsidise them sending their kids to what equate as a better school, and that's not on.
Matthew, do you know what? I'm going to buy you a sat-nav because you have totally lost your way.
I can't drive.
Do you know what? This is envy politics, that's all it is, and it will force parents now to put their sons and daughters into the state schools, piling more than pressure on the system itself. And it's a myth that this is...
I bet it doesn't.
It is a myth that just the wealthy put their children into private schools. It isn't just the wealthy. Many families, my own family, work very, very hard to give us this education. And for those that are highly gifted, Keir Starmer is now just taking away their dreams, their aspirations and their hope. Shame on you for sticking up for this. Shame on Keir Starmer.
Lizzie, there are scores of highly gifted kids who went to comprehensives just like I did, and you know, and we cannot have... Exactly. We need to ensure fairness across the system.
But parents aren't now able. A third of the parents aren't going to be able to put their kids in private schools.
We're waiting to see. 2.7% is not statistically significant.
And that's the beginning.
It's a third.
So the report says 2.7%, but they're expecting that to increase by September.
It will increase a little bit.
Yeah, but you see, so what they're talking about, you're talking about dislodging children from a school that they're comfortable in. A lot of kids do need the extra tuition. The parents are prepared to pay for it, but they can't afford 20%.
No kid will have to lose if the schools can cut their costs. So they don't need the fact. Look, if you go around a private school, and I'm not talking about Eton, I've been to lots of private schools, and and the facilities are fantastic. They're very fancy, but they can't come at the cost of being subsidised by the kids who are the comprehensive down the road, which is where 93% of British kids go.
OK, so that's not... Again, the parents who are sending their children to private school are paying twice. So they are paying in their taxes for those at state schools, which they're quite happy to do, and they are then paying for their children at a private school. So they are in effect, subsidised.
The VAT that's been subsidised, the fact the VAT isn't charged is a subsidy which is more than it outweighs what's being saved.
But Matthew, do you not see that this is just piling more pressure on state schools, and those that aren't as academic are going to suffer because they're not going to get the attention. Now, parents aren't able to afford this, and they work hard to try and put their kids into private school. You're denying it. Your party are denying it.
Let's come back in 2 years' time, and what you'll have found is that private schools
have cut
no, he won't. He will have cut their expenditure. They'll have done they'll have tightened their belts, and effectively most of the cut won't be passed on to parents.
That's not what
they are resentful. They are resentful of that. They are resentful. Labour Party are resentful of wealthy people, and all they're trying to do is fill the gap for the unfunded state schools.
Look, we're not saying that you can't send your kid to a private school.
We're saying that
you won't be able to afford it.
Subsidised by the 93%, shouldn't be subsidised by the 7%.
They're not being subsidised, first of all. I mean, I know you keep going on about the VAT thing, but they're not. Because bear in mind, you can't choose where your taxes go. So the taxes go... The VAT is because they have charitable status. Obviously, it's going to remove that from these private schools. A lot of these private schools do a lot in other charitable...
Well, I don't have kids, so can I have a VAT card on something else in my life? Because I'm not using those school facilities.
Well, exactly. I'm just coming back to your point.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. So to say that they're being subsidised, the private schools, the parents are subsidising the private schools, it isn't true.
It is.
They are very welcome to send their kids to our state schools, which are very successful. In my sixth form, loads of kids came from the local private school to the state school. They are.
Can you, when you see Keir Starmer, can you remind him that our younger generation have had to cope through so much through COVID with all of their education and now this, and it's taking away. It's taking away the opportunity.
Listen, he's not going to get the money. The bottom line is, whether you think it's a good or bad thing, he's not going to get the money that he's calculated. He thinks
no, he isn't.
Because they factored in the fact that there will be a fall in numbers going.
Yes, they factored in, but they realised that there'll be a point at which, if it does reach that, they won't make any extra money. So this and some of those private schools are going to have to close. So
there may be a few on the margins may have to close. The vast majority will continue.
This is the report from this independent body.
It's the group who promoted the
1,400 private schools.
Yes, it's not an independent body. It's a body of independent schools that wants to.
Matthew, this is politics of envy, and you know it.
Politics of envy at all.
Listen, we'll discuss that more. And what are your thoughts? GBNews.com. Coming up, Royal Roundup with Angela Levin. But next, it's time for the Great British Debate. I'm asking, does Starmer's immigration plan get your vote? The poll is up now on X, asking you that very question. Does Starmer's immigration plan get your vote? Get in touch at gbnews.com/your say, or go via Twitter at GBNews. That's on the way.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
So Meghan's launched her new lifestyle range, starting with jams. It's called American Riviera Orchard. Apparently, it's been made from organic fruits growing in Meghan and Harry's Montecito gardens. If we can believe it, I reserve an air of scepticism. But she sent out 50 jars of this jam to influencers and celebrity friends in the hope of trying to boost some sales to her product. But it's ended up winning for King Charles because fans have gone to Highgrove website and King Charles's jam has sold out.
So hang on, why did they go?
Has gone through the roof.
Why did they go to the Highgrove website?
Well, I think it's a bit of a blow against Meghan because they're saying we don't want your jam. We're going to go and get the king. So it just shows how popular the king is. This is what she's always wanted. Her dream has been to be like this Gwyneth Paltrow style lifestyle guru. She's always loved Gwyneth's website Goop. When she set up the TIG, which was her website when she was still in Suits as a working actress, that was the brand, the style of brand that she was going for, was this Gwyneth style, New York elite, very princessy. So this is her chance now by trying to cash in on her royal title because she is now a duchess, so she's using that to try and elevate her brand. And she's really now trying to carve out herself as this new Martha Stewart.
And she's coming out with the cooking show as well on Netflix. She's coming out with the cooking show. And she's, I mean, to be fair to Meghan, she has always tried to say that she's into healthy eating, organic food, cooking. But I don't see this being a success. It just will not happen for her because she's just burnt too many bridges. People just don't believe in her brand. They don't think she's authentic. So, are you an actress? Are you a guru? Are you a duchess? Are you a philanthropist? Who are you, Meghan?
Who actually are you? This is what we're asking. I don't think anyone knows. I don't think Meghan really knows who she is.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Sunday nights on GB News. From 6, Neil Oliver. At 7, it's Free Speech Nation with Andrew Doyle. At 9, Mark Dolan. And at 11, get set for the week ahead with headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, 21 after 4. This is GB News. I'm Nana Akua. Remember, you can stream the show live on YouTube. It's time now for the Great British Debate this hour, and I'm asking, does Starmer's immigration plan get your vote? This week, Sir Keir unveiled Labour's plans to use new counter-terrorism powers to tackle people smuggling gangs. I feel I've heard this before. He was speaking to almost 200 migrants were arriving in the UK after crossing the Channel that day. He's proposed that he's going to create an elite border security command.
Britain can do better. Labour will do better. We will end this farce. We will restore serious government to our borders, tackle this problem at source, and replace the Rwanda policy permanently. Today we launch our plan to do that. A new approach to small boat crossings that will secure Britain's borders, prevent the exploitation by tackling it upstream, and smash the criminal smuggling gangs. And as the first step in this plan, a new manifesto commitment.
His border security command, but will any of it work? So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, does Sir Keir Starmer's immigration plan get your vote? Joining me, former Labour Minister Dennis McShane, Ben Habib, Deputy Leader of Reform, former Labour MP Bill Rammell, and also former advisor to Michael Gove, Charlie Rowley. Right, so I'm going to start with, let's see what we got. I'm going to start with Charlie Rowley. Charlie Rowley.
I don't think anybody will be rushing to the Labour Party to give them a vote of confidence that they will actually tackle this problem. Getting rid of the Rwanda policy, whatever you think about the Rwanda policy, is a deterrent. And we've already heard from the Irish government that people are moving from the north to the south because they don't want to go to Rwanda. All of the things that Sir Keir Starmer was saying yesterday are things that the government is already doing. What we need to do is make sure to stop those boats coming over, that you have those returns agreements, what we've got with Albania. 90% of the Albanians that came into this country illegally have already been returned. But we also just need the partnership that we have with the French authorities, of which we've given a lot of money to keep up their bargain of the deal.
OK, let's go to Dennis McShane. Dennis McShane.
Well, very simply, Rwanda isn't going to work, period. There's one guy who's been given €3,000 or pounds to go back. He's since scarpered. This is such a boondoggle.
Well, hold on. You're just mentioning him. What about the Republic of Ireland situation?
Well, those are people who've gone into Southern Ireland and can be returned back.
No. They went there because they didn't want any chance of being sent to Rwanda. So if you're going to quote the one guy, I'm just giving you some more info.
I don't see any quotes from people. I have read this in the papers, there's constant traffic because we have no border in Northern Ireland. We have no border between Northern Ireland and the Republic for a very good reason called the Good Friday Peace Agreement. So we should be very, very careful before we start playing games.
It's not games. I'm just telling you some... No. Hold on. Sorry. Hold on. That's not a game, Dennis. They have reported in the Republic of Ireland that people are crossing the border, so coming in to the Republic because they're afraid of the Rwanda plan. Look, it's just a fact. It's not a game.
Look, there's a new nationalist, frankly racist, whites-only movement growing in Ireland. The new Prime Minister, the brand new Prime Minister, did mention he wanted to return all people arriving from Northern Ireland, British Ireland, the province of the 6 counties of Northern Ireland, British Ireland, back across the border. And his own advisors told him, you're talking nuts, and Rishi Sunak said to him, you're talking nuts. So this is actually irrelevant.
It is irrelevant. I'm not quite sure where we're going with it.
What we do know is that we have utterly failed to deal with any asylum applications. That is the
we know
problem.
this. Like you said, everyone knows this. What's your point, quickly, Dennis? Because I need to bring the others in.
Sorry if it's a bit complicated. Starmer said he's going to put 1,000 people in to deal with new applications. He's going to put in people with military experience, colonels, generals...
We've already got all that, though. We have.
There's nobody... The border force is underwhelmed, understaffed, underfinanced.
All right.
If you don't want to do it, don't do it.
All right.
Rwanda isn't going to work.
But Ben Habib...
Well, it's not going to work because, as you rightly say, Nana, the forces that he wishes to bring together, the Crown Prosecution Service, the MI5, Border Immigration Enforcement and the National Crime Agency, they already exist and they already do the best that they can to bust, to the extent that it's able, to bust up the people smuggling gangs. But the big point is this: the people smuggling gangs aren't based in the United Kingdom. They're based in Europe, and the Europeans have had their own terrific go at trying to bust them, but for reasons that are not clear, have been entirely unable to do it. So his central plank simply doesn't work. And one of the best things that the Conservative government's done, that hasn't done many great things, one of the best things it did in the Illegal Migration Act was to make it illegal for anyone, make it impossible, for anyone entering the country illegal to apply for asylum. And another plank of Keir Starmer's plan is to repeal that law so that people coming across the Channel would have the right to gain asylum in the UK. And that is like a green flag to would-be people smugglers and would-be illegal migrants. So his plan simply does not work. Both the Conservatives and the Labour Party have failed to grasp is that border control is about controlling your borders. It is a physical process, and we need to do what the Belgians did, which is to develop a specialised force that is...
But you're beginning to sound like him now. No, you're sounding like him now. It sounds like the same thing.
Well, the Belgians had a physical border force put in place.
Actually,
with
at the
drones,
border.
Sensors, and they turned back 92%.
Well, see, that's probably more real. If you really want to do that, then that's what will deter people from actually paying people smugglers and actually ruin the model. Bill Rammell. Sorry, Bill.
Well, let's compare like with like. The Rwanda scheme is not a deterrent. You know, it's going to take 300 years to clear the backlog. It's colossally expensive, doubling the amount of money we're spending on asylum seekers. This plan, which is about police, criminal, counter-terrorism cooperation involving the security services, can be effective, can really be a deterrent. Linked with it is us effectively coming back into the Dublin Convention as well, so that you return asylum seekers to the first European country that they enter. It's practical, it's sensible. And, you know, look at what happened when we last used these kind of mechanisms.
When we last used it, I think we only sent about 32 people using the Dublin Convention over many, many years. It wasn't really...
Hold on, Nana. Let's look at the reality. When Dennis and I were ministers in the last Labour government, from 2005 to 2010, we significantly reduced the number of asylum seekers coming to this country. The level was 2/3 less.
Was it part of Tony Blair's plan that we're in this situation, Charlie? Isn't it part of some of the things that Tony Blair set up that's why we're here in this mess at the moment?
Well, totally. And it strikes me that, we heard over, I think it was over Christmas, Tony Blair thought of something similar, a similar policy like this to sort of stop migrants coming in. I think it was just an isle off of Scilly or Scotland or something like that. So the idea that Rwanda is some sort of, totally, cooked-up, crazed policy, it's something that the Labour Party considered under Tony Blair because the problem was going to be so great. Now, there have been problems, obviously successive failures in terms of trying to tackle those numbers, but I just push back slightly on what Bill was saying because, Rwanda is the most toughest bit of legislation that has been passed through. It's under Rishi Sunak that's been able to do that. It's been thwarted and blocked at every given opportunity by the Labour Party. It's coming into effect, hopefully, as the Prime Minister would want, in 10 to 12 weeks' time, when those first flights will take off. And then you will start to see even more, an even greater, I should say, decrease in the numbers of people coming into this country because of Rwanda up and running, because it will be a deterrent. I can't possibly believe anybody thinks that coming into the UK, where we are currently and have been for too long, perhaps a soft touch, will want to come into this country, knowing full well that the prospect may be that you'd be deported to Rwanda. It's only through that scheme that will deter people coming into the country.
Well, I mean...
Charlie, at the projected rate, you've got a 1% chance of being sent to Rwanda. For people travelling halfway across the world, that is simply not a deterrent.
I think that isn't that slight...
It's a colossal waste of money.
That's slightly disingenuous because it's a beginning of... So it's not a total number of how many people, it's an opening, but it's also part of... Sorry, let me finish. It's also part of an overall plan using what we already have. So because we will need somewhere to send people who fail asylum. We need a third country. So what are you proposing, Bill? Where will you send a failed asylum seeker? If you can't go back. Yeah, but if they can't, some of them can't go back. Some of them can't go back. Hang on. Some of them can't go back to their home countries. That's the point. That's why you need a third country.
No. If they can't go back, they're likely to be fleeing for their lives and fearing from
failed asylum seekers.
And they would be successful in their applications.
Failed asylum seekers. There's many of them who hang about in this country, some of them even committing crimes, and we can't send them anywhere. By this plan, we've got some elite border force that will supposedly stop these people.
Why not send them to the Orkney Islands or Shetland Islands? A lot cheaper.
What about the people in the Orkney? Have a word with people in Orkney and Shetland and see what they have to say about it.
It's simple to say nobody's asked the Rwandan people.
Well, the Rwandans they're being welcoming, and they're not a dictatorship.
It's a dictatorship.
It is not
Every
a dictatorship.
human rights organisation,
there is no solution.
It is not a democracy. Can we give up that bit of the myth at least?
It's not a myth. OK, let's have a yes or no. OK, so I've got to run to the news. I would really want to talk to you guys forever, but I can't. I'm sure the viewers want to hear more, but it's a yes or no then. So I'm going to start with you, Bill. Does Keir Starmer's immigration plan get your vote? Yes or no?
Yes.
Ben Habib, yes or no?
Absolutely no. It's rubbish.
Charlie Rowley, yes or no?
No.
And Dennis McShane?
Yes.
Right, so that's even Stevens. Well, shall I cast mine? No. I'll leave it to you at home. Thank you so much for your thoughts. Lovely to have you. Dennis McShane, Ben Habib, Bill Rammell, and also Charlie Peters. Great to have your company. Right, so what do you think at home? gbnews.com/your say. Coming up, we'll continue with this great British debate. I'm asking, does Sir Keir Starmer's immigration plan get your vote? My panel will be live to discuss. But first, let's get your latest news with Aaron.
Hi there, it's 4:32. I'm Aaron Armstrong. The Dutch contestant's been kicked out of the Eurovision Song Contest. The European Broadcasting Union says Joost Klein will not compete in the grand final, while Swedish police investigate a complaint of inappropriate behaviour by a female member of the production crew. He'd been amongst the favourites to win it. Meanwhile, security's been tightened ahead of tonight's show as big pro-Palestinian protests through the centre of Malmö continue. Demonstrators have gathered there and they're on their way to the venue. They're protesting against Israel's participation in the event. Its entrant, Eden Golan, has qualified for tonight's final. And bookmakers have placed Croatia's Baby Lasagna as the favourite. 2 men have been arrested on suspicion of murder after 2 women died in a house fire in Wolverhampton. Emergency services were called to a property in the Dunstall Hill area at 2 a.m. West Midlands Fire Service says 3 other people have been taken to hospital and a 6th person was discharged at the scene. Meanwhile, a 54-year-old man's been arrested on suspicion of murder after a police officer was shot in the leg with a crossbow in High Wycombe. The suspect was shot by an armed officer. He's now in hospital under police supervision with potentially life-changing injuries. And if you're suffering a bout of regret from missing a rare display of the Northern Lights last night, fear not. There is another opportunity later as one of the strongest geomagnetic storms to hit the planet in years returns. Aurora Borealis will be visible in the skies across the UK, but it may not be quite as pronounced as yesterday. If you are staying up, any time after 10:30 will be best. And you can get more on all of our stories with GB News alerts. Scan the QR code or go to our website for more details. Now back to Nana.
Well, there is still plenty of time to win our biggest cash prize ever, a whopping 20 grand. Imagine having that in your bank account this summer. But you've got to be in the draw for your chance to win, so here's how.
Don't miss your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far. A totally terrific £20,000 in tax-free cash to make your summer spectacular. You could use that cash to splash out on a holiday, make the garden glam, buy a new car, or just save it for a rainy day. Whatever you'd spend £20,000 on, make sure you don't miss the chance to make it yours. For another chance to win £20,000 in tax-free cash, text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB05 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 31st of May. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Indeed, good luck indeed. Well, joining me now, though, as we cross over live now to Sweden, is GB News reporter Charlie Peters, is giving us a quick update on Eurovision. Charlie.
Well, I'm here halfway through this significant march from pro-Palestinian protesters as they move towards the centre of Malmö here in southern Italy. This is a thousands-strong march. Police tell me not as large as the march that we had on Thursday night here in the city ahead of the semi-final when Israel were participating and they then qualified for tonight's grand final. But it is still a large presence marching throughout this city and taking over the main streets. We've heard many of the same chants you would have heard in the pro-Palestine demonstrations in London. Earlier, when we came to you in the last hour, we were delayed coming on as a group tried to shut down our broadcast, putting flags in their hands in front of our lens as we started to fire up and broadcast live from Sweden. One of the protesters said that GB News was a fascist network as they put their hands over our camera. But otherwise, it's been a peaceful march. Some people dressed in military fatigues, but otherwise broadly and similar to the protests we've seen in London. And this march comes on the backdrop of chaos for the situation at Eurovision tonight. The Dutch act was kicked out of and disqualified from the competition earlier today. An unprecedented move by the European Broadcasting Union. The first time they've taken such a decision to remove a contestant on the final day. And also in the final dress rehearsals before going live tonight at the grand finale, we did also see the French contestant deliver a speech halfway through his performance. He said that while united by music is the motto for this year's Eurovision, more had to be said, and he issued a spoken speech halfway through that performance. We've also seen from the Irish camp, Bambi Thug, that act, refusing to answer questions in a press conference earlier in the last hour about a situation where their team alleges that an Israeli broadcaster made disparaging comments towards them. And finally, in Norway, their public jury vote representative has also pulled out of that responsibility tonight. Eurovision's in chaos, and this march is continuing.
Speak to you, we'll give you further updates. That's Charlie Peters. Still to come, though, my Great British Debate after this.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall? Let's find out together. For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Prince Harry, remember him? He appears to have fully turned his back on the UK as he listed his primary residence as the United States for the very first time in papers published yesterday. So interestingly, Harry listed the date on the formal US residency forms as the 29th of June 2023, last year. So that was the very same day he was kicked out of Frogmore Cottage in Great Windsor Park by his dad, the King. Charlotte, thank you for joining me.
Okay.
Are we just putting two and two together here with the significance of this date? Because there were stories during the rounds today that Harry chose that date specifically because he was so hurt about being booted out of Frogmore by his dad.
Yeah, I mean, to me it feels like he's trolling his dad a bit, because he could have said that he's been a US resident since 2020 when he quit the UK and moved to the States, but instead he chose the exact day that his dad kicked him out of Frogmore. But the reason his dad kicked him out of Frogmore was because he'd slagged off Camilla in Spare. And, you know, and his dad, apparently it was a really difficult decision for Charles, because, of course, no dad wants to kick their son out of their home. But he went beyond the pale. So Charles took the difficult decision to say, look, Frogmore's been empty for years anyway. We've spent £2.4 million doing it up for you. And now you've, you know, insulted our family in your book, Spare. Why is he so hung up on Frogmore? Because this is the country he was desperate to get away from. This is a house he didn't particularly want to live in and, in fact, didn't live in.
Well, he was forced, by the way, to pay £2.5 million to fund the renovations after it all kicked off. I mean, would that have anything to do with...
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure
own...
that sort of galvanised his anger towards the whole situation. He thought he was getting a fantastic freebie. And there was, you know, there were a few reports at the time that Meghan actually thought she was moving into Frogmore House, which is a much grander property. And she sort of felt a bit sort of tricked or confused and hadn't quite realised it was actually a cottage, which is only a mere, I think it was only a mere 8 bedrooms.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Right, it's GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. 42 minutes after 4 o'clock, it's time for the Great British Debate this hour. I'm asking, does the Keir Starmer's immigration plan get your vote? Joining me to discuss, my panellists, author and broadcaster Lizzie Cundy, and also Matthew Lars, a former Labour Party advisor. Lizzie Cundy.
Well, I'm going to call him now Sir Keir Cancel, because...
it's a change.
Cancelling everything now, including Rwanda, but actually it's no sort of like shock, because I think at birth his charisma was cancelled. I'm sorry to say that. Look, this is really stupid of him, absolutely stupid to say that he's cancelling Rwanda. This is the only deterrent, and now the criminals are going to be coming in their tens and thousands because they know there's nothing, you know, that's going to be done about it.
Matthew Lars.
And it was a deterrent.
Yeah, no, I think it's a very sensible plan that he's laid out. Rwanda is a complete red herring. It's so far not a single person has been sent to Rwanda.
One person has.
Hang on, forcibly. One person's gone voluntarily.
Yes,
it costs £3 grand. It's going to cost £3 million a person.
That's a normal thing.
You've got
they
a
do that all the time. That's a settlement scheme.
99% chance of not being sent to Rwanda. What we actually need to do is take much more effective action against the criminal gangs to prevent people from coming here. We haven't, because we're not using anti-terror legislation. So one of the things they can do is they can bring in the serious crime prevention orders, which means that you can.
But did you see Patrick Christie's interview? Did you see the interview with the migrants? And they said they're all scared of Rwanda.
This show's nothing without you and your views. Let's welcome our Great British Voice, their opportunity to be on. Tell us what they think about the topics we're discussing. Should we go to... Where should we go?
The West Country, west of England.
We've got time for the map. I love this. Let's go to Bristol and Lee Harris. You need to be brief. Lee Harris.
Absolutely not, Nana. In my view, Keir Starmer is a human political weather vane. His so-called plan is mostly just repackaged stuff of, that we're doing already. It's complete nonsense. With Labour, especially Keir Starmer, you have to completely ignore what he says and watch closely what he does. I find it almost insulting that he has the nerve to stand at a podium and try and tell us he wants to be strong on border control and stopping the boats after what we've seen from him. The Labour Party have consistently voted against every single measure to try and stop the boats. He campaigned to stop deportation flights. If he had his way, we'd be back in the EU. He's surrounded by MPs who just call everyone racist, who wants to have a sensible conversation about border control. And he said he wants to stop the Rwanda plan.
He's
but in
mad.
my view,
I think it's
you'd have to
madness.
be completely mad.
There must be Lazar's phone going off there with some weird
outrageous.
Song. Outrageous.
It's just getting in the groove for the next debate.
Lee Harris, thank you so much for your thoughts. As succinct as ever, the brilliant Lee Harris, our great British voice. Next, Angela Levin will be here to give us the latest from behind the palace walls and my royal roundup.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast on the Met Office. We're looking ahead to the rest of this weekend. A change is in store. We start to say goodbye to this area of high pressure, and low pressure begins to take charge as we head towards next week. But back to the here and now, we still have some fairly fine and settled weather as we end Saturday, so a pleasant end to the day. Some low cloud and mist just moving in from the east, but for many, it's another fairly good chance to see the northern lights tonight, especially across more northern parts of the country. And for all of us, it's going to be a fairly mild night. Most towns and cities staying firmly in double figures. So we do start off Sunday with some low cloud and some mist across the east. That will gradually burn its way back towards the North Sea. Elsewhere, plenty of sunshine as we go through the course of the morning, and then into the afternoon we start to see some scattered showers develop, and these will then turn quite thundery and heavy in places. There are warnings in force from the Met Office as we go through the course of tomorrow, so do watch out if you are travelling about. But in the sunshine, highs reaching 26 or 27 degrees. Then as we move into next week, we start to see low pressure take charge. This band of rain will move in during the course of Monday across the southwest, giving a very wet picture here. Elsewhere, a mixture of sunny spells and showers, but as we go in towards the middle part of the week, temperatures will fall back down to where they should be for the time of year.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio, and online.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Sunday nights on GB News. From 6, Neil Oliver. At 7, it's Free Speech Nation with Andrew Doyle. At 9, Mark Dolan. And at 11, get set for the week ahead with headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And why it matters to you. From your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you. Good afternoon, Britain. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua, and there is always something going on in the royal household, and this week has been no different. And every Saturday, I love to give you a rundown, and who better to do so than royal biographer Angela Levin. So, Angela, Harry, he's back for a short while. He's probably gone back now. He's not there.
Yes, it's been awful.
Yeah.
I think he's been rude to his father and using, Invictus Games to just make him more famous and make him more money. I think it's absolutely terrible. And I've been watching today he and Meghan out in Africa, and I could barely believe my eyes, really. It's so phony and awful. And I mean, you don't mind really what clothes people wear, but if you go to a school, a very quiet school that is a religious one of Muslims, you don't go with a dress that's absolutely no backing to it at all. I think that's really...
Yeah, because a lot of those, you have to cover your shoulders in a lot of those countries, or if you do anything. Because I've done TV shows in that sort of environment, you have to cover your shoulders.
Yes, and it doesn't mean anything. You just do it. You just do it and you behave very well. And I thought, just coming down the side of your... It's absolutely awful. And she was very rude because one of the teachers was talking to her, and there were two little girls there sort of joining in, sort of, politely. And she obviously was bored. She looked up in the air, looked around, and she said, "Hi." And she then sort of pulled Harry, as she usually does, because she was bored with that. She wanted someone who could then take nice pictures of her and Harry. And you think, my goodness, where are your manners? Where are your manners?
But she might just argue that she was just being normal herself and just...
I don't think she's never normal herself when she's...
Well, she might be. She might argue that that's what she's doing.
Yes.
They're also, it was their charity, wasn't it? One of their... a charity that they've given money to from their organisation, from their Archwell. I think they gave them 20 grand or something, didn't they?
Yes, but William and Catherine gave much more. So you can't just say it's their game. And I think, lots of the people from the Invictus Games have said to me it's now become just a Meghan Markle show. It's about presenting her. And I think it's a big shame. Harry went to see some wounded soldiers there, but he wasn't like his mother. I think he was trying to copy his mother, but he didn't have that softness or that keenness. And he said to someone who had just one leg, he said, "Oh, well, give it a name," he said. And I thought that, there's things like that which you pick up, but just inappropriate and very sad that it should be so difficult. As for King Charles, I think he's amazing. I mean, he's scurrying around as much as possible. As he's had the thing that he can go, he's actually going incredibly fast, doing 2 or 3 things in one day. And when somebody said, "How are you?" he says, "Oh, not that bad." And it worried me slightly because he sort of said, "Oh, great, fine, doing brilliantly." But he said as well that, thank goodness, they've let me out. They've unlocked the door that I can get out. And you see how desperately he wants to be with us, with the people, and that it makes a very big difference to him. And I'm sure that will help him cure himself, because if you really are happy and you really want to be out and about and what you're used to be doing, then it helps the medicine to work and you to go along.
All good energy makes the medicine go round.
But Queen Camilla was quite interesting because the first thing he did was a huge garden party with 8,000 people, which is quite a lot. Often he tries to get through everyone, but he didn't this time. I was pleased to know he was just for an hour rather than 2. And she kept slightly pushing on the back when it was enough to go. And I thought she was so subtle about it. No pulling, no holding hands and dragging. Just a little tap. And he moved on. Aww. It was very sweet. It was very, very sweet. And I hope that he will continue to get well and better, and that he can, enjoy it really well. Whereas Camilla's having a lovely time because she has a charity that was celebrating its 90th year for horses, ponies and donkeys. And she's been a member of that for a very long time. And she invited some of these animals to come and have a sleepover in Buckingham Palace. And she was absolutely thrilled that they'd come. She'd got her food ready. She's got a knack. And all the animals came up to her, the donkeys, and let her stroke them. I just think it's very touching. And she does it all very subtly. She's working incredibly hard. Every day there's something she's doing because I think she wants to keep the motivation there. But when you see her with animals, you see somebody who's really keen of looking after them and doing well. When she started at this charity, the Brook, there was just animals who had been deserted and were really in the most terrible, terrible state. And so she immediately became involved in it and helped them all get much better and have a better life. Lovely. Really nice.
Really nice, little Camilla.
Really nice.
It's nice to see them, the royal family. A lot of people are saying, though, that it was Charles who didn't find time for Harry. Is that the way around it was, or was it...?
No, well, the palace has said they don't recall having any request.
Oh.
Number one. Number two, I think because he had a lot to do, after the garden party, he had to see the Prime Minister. And I think he would probably be exhausted, and he's got to be very careful. And I think that if Harry's going to go in and make demands and be angry, then he doesn't want that. He doesn't need that sort of aggression. And I think that it's true. If Harry had said, when would be a good time for you, that might have been much better than him saying, you've got to see me now.
Angela Levin, thank you very much for that piece of information. A lot of people are saying it's the other way around, but if the palace is saying they never even got any sort of request, then that's a bit unfair of the reporting. But thank you very much, Angela Levin. Really good to talk to you. That is, of course, royal biographer Angela Levin. Well, stay tuned. If you've just joined me, this is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Coming up, my Great British Debate. But next, it's time for this week's difficult conversation with Ghali, former gambling addict and mental health advocate. He'll be live in the studio. First, let's get an update with your weather.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast on the Met Office. We're looking ahead to the rest of this weekend. A change is in store. We start to say goodbye to this area of high pressure, and low pressure begins to take charge as we head towards next week. But back to the here and now, we still have some fairly fine and settled weather as we end Saturday, so a pleasant end to the day. Some low cloud and mist just moving in from the east, but for many, it's another fairly good chance to see the northern lights tonight, especially across more northern parts of the country. And for all of us, it's going to be a fairly mild night. Most towns and cities staying firmly in double figures. So we do start off Sunday with some low cloud and some mist across the east. That will gradually burn its way back towards the North Sea. Elsewhere, plenty of sunshine as we go through the course of the morning, and then into the afternoon we start to see some scattered showers develop, and these will then turn quite thundery and heavy in places. There are warnings in force from the Met Office as we go through the course of tomorrow, so do watch out if you are travelling about. But in the sunshine, highs reaching 26 or 27 degrees. Then as we move into next week, we start to see low pressure take charge. This band of rain will move in during the course of Monday across the southwest, giving a very wet picture here. Elsewhere, a mixture of sunny spells and showers, but as we go in towards the middle part of the week, temperatures will fall back down to where they should be for the time of year.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Could be our next big winner with an incredible £20,000 in tax-free cash to play with this summer. What would you spend that on? Well, whilst you're thinking about it, listen to some of our previous winners getting that winning phone call from us.
I'm Charles. I'm on £18,000 cash. It was just amazing, and as soon as it goes into your bank account, it just changed. It's a life-changing thing. Just go for it. It's an absolute must. You must try and go for it.
The next winning call could be answered by you. For another chance to win £20,000 in tax-free cash, text PRIZE to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB05 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 31st of May. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio and online.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're GB News, and we come from a proud tradition of British journalism.
That's why I'm so excited to be here. It's something so new.
The first news channel to be launched in Britain in over 30 years.
Launched to represent the views of the British people.
To go where other broadcasters refuse to go.
How did you find out about the story in the first place?
Launched with one aim.
To be the fearless champion of Britain.
It's an absolutely fantastic atmosphere here.
This is GB News.
The People's Channel. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threats on.
Our job is to do what's in the best interest of our country.
You made my argument for me. My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter, with a sharp take on every story.
I'm hearing it up and down the country.
That was a beginning, not an end.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, this is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. For the next hour, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. So coming up, my difficult conversation, I'll be speaking to an inspirational champion. I've got loads still to come as well. We'll be discussing Eurovision and going live to Charlie Peters in Sweden. Plus, I've got a wonderful clipbait for you, a glimpse of the sky at night during that fabulous Northern Lights that happened last night, and apparently there's more happening tonight. But first, let's get your latest news headlines.
Hi there, it's 5 o'clock. It's Aaron Armstrong here with the latest news headlines. Let's start with Eurovision. The Netherlands' entry has been disqualified from the grand final of the song contest. The European Broadcasting Union says Just Klein will not compete, while Swedish police investigate a complaint of inappropriate behaviour by a female member of the production crew. Meanwhile, security's being stepped up in Malmö, the city hosting the event. Ahead of tonight's show, pro-Palestinian protests through the city are continuing. These people are on their way to the venue that will host the song contest later. Now, demonstrators are rallying against Israel's participation in the event. The country's entry, Eden Golan, has qualified for tonight's show. She's amongst the leading contenders to win, but bookmakers have made Croatia's baby Lasagna as the favourite. Let's hear from some of the fans on what they think of the protests and the event.
I think it's great that the EBU didn't back down cowardly from the protesters, and they included Israel and didn't tamper with votes or anything. They let them through the final.
I understand it. I personally disagree with their involvement, and a lot of the stuff that's happened in the past 24 hours generally in Eurovision, like with the possible disqualification of the Dutch representative, all the videos coming out from inside the arena in general, it's become a bit too much.
We're here to enjoy the stuff, Bambi's here to enjoy it, and we're not bringing politics into it.
I'm not particularly political, so I tend to stay out of it, and I think a competition like this, it's about bringing people together, not, trying to cause a lot of diversity, so, division, I just don't think that's the right kind of attitude to have about Eurovision.
We have managed to avoid most of anything that's going on, and I think, to be fair, it's been a little bit exaggerated by broadcasting. No, nothing against you guys.
The Israeli army has ordered new evacuation orders for various parts of the Gaza Strip as it expands its military operation. More neighbourhoods in Rafah have been told to move to so-called humanitarian areas in the west. Some 300,000 Palestinians have already left. But Israeli forces have also told residents in northern Gaza to evacuate, prompting fears of an assault on two fronts. The UN says food in the south of Gaza is likely to run out today. The UK and its allies have warned Israel against carrying out a military offensive in Rafah. A 17-year-old boy has died after getting into trouble while swimming in the town of Wellingborough. Ronald's Abele was found in the water by rescue crews yesterday after reports he got into difficulty in open water at the embankment. Northamptonshire police say it was a tragic incident, and Ronald's family have requested privacy at this very distressing time. Two men have been arrested on suspicion of murder after two women died in a house fire in Wolverhampton. Emergency services were called to a property in the Dunstall Hill area at 2 a.m. The West Midlands Fire Service say 3 other people were injured and taken to hospital. A 6th person was discharged at the scene. Meanwhile, a police officer has been shot in the leg with a crossbow in Buckinghamshire. The officer was responding to reports of a stabbing in High Wycombe last night. A 54-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of attempted murder and was shot by an armed officer. He's now in hospital under supervision with potentially life-threatening injuries. Thames Valley Police have confirmed the man who was shot, though, has since been discharged from hospital. Drivers are being warned to only travel on the M25 in Surrey if absolutely necessary. It follows an unprecedented closure of the motorway, with 5 miles between junctions 9 and 10 closed to traffic until 6 a.m. on Monday. It's created a 19-mile diversion, which is causing delays. It's the first scheduled daytime shutdown of all lanes on the motorway since it opened in 1986. Authorities in Ibiza and Majorca have issued a new booze ban in an effort to crack down on what they call excessive tourism. The sale of alcohol in shops and off licences will be banned from 9:30 in the evening until 8 a.m. in popular hotspots like Magaluf, Playa de Palma and San Antonio. And there will also be further restrictions on party boats. It's all in an attempt to crack down on anti-social behaviour and booze-fuelled holidays following complaints from locals. Those who break the law could be fined up to £1,300. And don't worry if you missed the Northern Lights lighting up the sky across Britain last night, because they could return later. One of the strongest geomagnetic storms for years is hitting the planet. It's caused by charged particles hitting the different gases in the atmosphere. Now, they're normally only seen in the far north of the UK, but you can probably see them across most parts of the UK a little bit later tonight. From 10:30, I understand, is the best time. For the latest on all of our stories, scan the QR code on your screen. That'll give you GB News alerts. Details are also on the website. Now back to Nana.
Thank you, Aaron. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. It's fast approaching 7 minutes after 5 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua. And for the next hour, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course, it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me today, it's broadcaster and author Lizzie Cundy, and also former advisor to the Labour Party, Matthew Larser. Still to come, my difficult conversation today is with Harj Galay. Now, as he talks about his inspirational journey, it's all about overcoming gambling and becoming a mental health advocate. Stay tuned, you will not want to miss his story. Then, for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should Israel be included in Eurovision? As protesters storm Malmö in Sweden, the site of tonight's grand final, has the contest become too politicised? And as ever, you can get in touch. Email gbviews@gbnews.com, or why not go to gbnews.com/your say, or tweet me at gbnews. Right, so it's time for this week's difficult conversations. Now, imagine being secretly addicted, knowing that it was costing you thousands and thousands of pounds, damaging your mental health and the relationships, and also feeling like you couldn't actually escape. Very harrowing stuff. Now, my next guest not only overcame these momentous challenges, he's now a passionate campaigner for recovery and championing of uplifting others. I'm joined now in the studio by Harj Galay. Harj, thank you very much for joining me. What fabulous skin you have.
Thank you very much.
I just suddenly noticed it.
It must be the vitamin D.
It must be, must be. Harsh, talk to me about your story then. You know, how did you come to be addicted? Have you always been somebody who likes gambling and always been addicted to it? How did that?
Well, no, my sort of growing up, I've come from a traditional household. So from the South Asian communities, I was always told to go to school, get an education, and hopefully get a good degree, which then goes on to a great job. So it sort of happened shortly after university when a friend of mine sort of said to myself, you know, let's carry on the party. And we actually ended up in a casino because that's where they give you free food and some free drinks.
Yeah.
I didn't know why, but now I know now. So what happened was I'd gone into this casino, and as I went down to, you know, I remember all the bright lights, I could hear the hustle and bustle, I could hear people laughing, and there was a whole different atmosphere compared to anything I've experienced. And I remember my friends sitting down at the blackjack table and watching on, I saw them, you know, making a bit of money.
Yeah.
But then they said to me, Hodge, why don't you take a seat with us? And it was at that moment where they said, well, put £20 in. And they were sort of showing me how to play blackjack, and I didn't know. And then in about sort of 30, 40 minutes, what turned from £20 went to £60. And in my eyes, I was like, this is free money. And what led to that was I sort of went to casinos every week. And then it went to sort of 3 times a week. And then it went to being there every day.
Wow. Now, were you going to the same casinos all the time, or was it just different ones?
It was different ones where I would try different ones to try my different luck. But then I realised that going to casino was maybe a bit too far, so I ended up going to the bookmakers because I found that a lot easier.
Okay.
There'll be days where I'd be at the bookmakers first, depending if I'd won or lost. Then I'd go to a casino. To be truthful with you, the longest time I've actually spent in a casino in one sitting was 48 hours.
Wow, 2 days.
2 days.
And did you lose money? Presumably everyone loses money, right?
Yeah. So over the course of 12 years, so from 2009 when I started up until June 2020, I lost £250,000 to my gambling addiction.
My God. And how are you managing to cope with that? That's a debt around your neck, right? Or are you paying it what for?
Well, to be fair, I've been quite fortunate on this side of it, where I've been now debt-free. So I've been able to pay those debts off by selling off assets, looking at remortgaging my properties, speaking to friends, helping me. But ultimately, it had to come down to the most difficult conversation. And here's the truth. When you talk about gambling addiction, it's so hard because as a man, I've always been told from such a young age to be quiet, man up, big boys don't cry. So I've never been shown how to emotionally emote. So when I wanted to come out about this, I always felt a lot of shame because there's a lot of negative stigmas around, there's a lot of taboo around this. And to layer on that, especially in the Sikh community and the South Asian community, it's almost a situation which is, if you talk about anything like gambling, you're almost ostracized or shunned from the community. And the worst part was, I was a people pleaser. And if anyone didn't like me, I would just feel so embarrassed. I'd do anything in my power. So to maybe not talk about what's happening, it's better to be quiet. So that's what was happening. That happened for 12 years.
And what about your family? Because presumably you're married. Have you got children?
Yeah, so I've got 2 children now. And it was... so I met my wife in 2012 on a flight back from New York. We got married in 2014. We had our first child in 2017. And it was in June 2020 where her suspicions around money, why are we not going out? Why are we not going to a restaurant? Why are we not booking these holidays? Also, there's these late payments. So it was all these little suspicions that came about, and the exact date where everything unfolded was on the 16th of June 2020. And I remember we've just gone mid-pandemic. We had beautiful weather, a bit like today, and it was about 8 o'clock in the morning. I gave my 2-year-old in his room playing, and I walked into my room, and there it was. I saw my wife sitting on the bed. But this was a different type of cry. I've never seen her cry like this. And if anyone has seen my wife, she's a beautiful, strong woman. And for her to be like this, before I asked her what's wrong, my heart dropped to my stomach because she was holding my phone. And up until that point, I told so many lies. What have I lied about, what she found, how she found out about the gambling, how she found out about other different things. And then that's it. She just turned the phone around, everything in black and white, because she had accessed my online bank account.
Wow.
The hard thing with that is, if I'm being honest, for so long, I was hiding something from someone. And this person had always had my best interest, loved me, supported me through thick and thin. And I remember her saying to me, right, that's it, we're done. Pack your bags, go. And for so long, I'd been chasing a jackpot, not realizing the jackpot was sat in front of me. And not only to add to that, we've just found out as well, we're expecting a second child in 2021. So not only has that got that added pressure, I've broken trust, I've given her anxiety, stress, and because of all the lies and because of all the deceits, I can remember her saying to me, well, if we're going to get through this together, and it was actually my father-in-law that helped me and said, well, if we remove the addiction to one side, he's a great person. So what we need to do is give him some support. So who do I reach out to? So I remember speaking to my wife. I go, who do I ask for help? And my first thought was my family, my parents, my brothers, friends and family. But shame and guilt kicks in. What would they think of me? Are they going to think worse of me? Are they going to love me? Are they going to support me? Do they know how to support me? And I almost, as a man, nearly let my ego get the better of me. And I almost didn't get the help.
Thank God you did. Thank God you did. So your advice to somebody who is watching you and hearing you, because there'll be people out there who are going through what you're going through. There'll be parents or even partners who probably know their partner is involved or, you know, getting into debt in this way. What would you say would be the first thing that you would say to them?
The first thing I always say is, for every action, there's a consequence, whether that's on your physical health, your mental health, your finances, and the people around you are also affected by this horrendous disease. So all I would say is put any fear of judgment to one side.
Yeah.
And just pick up a phone. There's the National Gambling Helpline. There's so many different ways that you can get support. And those people are going to listen to you. And the great thing with this is that because they don't know you, you can be as honest, as truthful as possible. Because if you're lying to these people, effectively you're just lying about the amount of help and support that you can get.
Yeah, exactly. And are you over it now then? Or are you always an addict to this?
So I'll tell you what happened to me. So the reason where I was able to catapult or change my life was that, here's the truth, gambling nearly killed me. Because it took me to an even darker place. Even my wife finding out, you know, on the 18th of August, you know, I attempted the unthinkable. Unfortunately for me right now, I'm on the other side. So yes, I do get moments, because I have to remember, it's like a relationship. I can't forget my first. I can't forget that part of my life. But what I can do is look at it and say, what did it teach me? What can I learn from this? What can I then use this information and guidance to support someone else? And this is what I've been doing. The more I speak up about this, because ultimately the reason I talk about this is because I want to be a voice for those that are suffering in silence, because that's what's happening.
Well, if people want to find out more about what you're doing in the work, you're currently, I know that you're doing work with an organisation, aren't you? You're speaking out about this. Yep. So where can people find you?
So there's a couple of places. So one, you can find me on my socials, which is very simple, Harj Gale, or go to a charity, my charity, which is Red Card Gambling Support, or just reach out to the National Gambling Helpline, because they are nationwide. You can just pick up the phone, you can speak to them 24/7, and then they can point you in the right direction to support you and get the help that you need.
Yeah, Harj, thank you so much for talking to me. It's a serious problem, and one that people don't really want to talk about when it comes to money. People want to sort of brush it under the carpet. So I respect you coming in and giving our viewers your story. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
That, of course, is Harj Gale. Well, he's coming to speak to us. Ex-gambling addict, is a non-executive director for Red Card Gambling. It's a support project. So if you have any issues with regard to gambling, as you said, the National Gambling Helpline should be available to you as well. But stay tuned. If you just tuned in, it's coming up to 17 minutes after 5 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua. Next, it's time for the Great British Debate. This hour, I'm asking, should Israel be included in Eurovision? And the sky becomes a lit-up canvas. Stay tuned, find out more in Clip Debate. We'll be talking about the Northern Lights. Don't go anywhere.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Scotland, home of Humza Yousaf's hate crime law, aka the Clype's Charter.
Clype, a delightfully Scottish word for a grass, a snitch, or in the context of Russell Finley's opening gambit during the hate crime debate at Holyrood last week, reporting your friends, family and neighbours to the police for alleged hate crimes. The SNP responded by doubling down on the new law's ability to protect vulnerable victims.
I am confident that we have robust legislation that will protect those who are vulnerable to harm.
But other victims are emerging in the wake of this new legislation. As the bill moved through Parliament, concerns rose of police inundated with vexatious complaints, targeting individuals who had committed no crimes. The first fortnight of the new law gave rise to nearly 9,000 complaints.
The vast majority, at least 95%, have been deemed not to be crimes.
False reporting is nothing new. A social post from Scottish Conservative Murdo Fraser was flagged by a trans rights activist in November.
Police decided that no crime had been committed, but nevertheless that was recorded as a non-crime hate incident.
And Alba Westminster leader Neil Hanvey says he too has been targeted under pre-existing legislation.
I've been the victim of at least one of those complaints, and that's taken up the time of police officers.
Thick skin can be expected of our elected officials, but what about the public? 74-year-old Morag McDougall-Brown says she was reported to police by a neighbour, and the experience has taken its toll.
I hate to think that anybody like me or similar to my age would ever have to go through this, because I really don't think I will ever go over it.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. It's fast approaching 21 minutes after 5 o'clock. It's time now for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, should Israel be included in the Eurovision? Now, this year's contest is marred in controversy as Israel's entry, Eden Golan, has faced a backlash and even reported contempt from the other competitors. She is, however, the second favourite to win, and the Dutch entry, Joost Klein, already has been disqualified. It's all up for grabs this evening. Russia and Belarus were kicked out of the competition 2 years ago. So there is a precedent for protesters' demands. However, it seems Israel will be in the grand final tonight. I mean, who are you going to vote for? So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should Israel be included in Eurovision? Well, joining me now is GB News reporter Charlie Peters to give us a quick update. He's live in Sweden, where Eurovision will be held tonight. Charlie Peters. Crikey. So talk to me, give us an update on what's happening there.
Well, we're here in central Malmö in the south of Sweden, where the march demanding that Israel is removed from Eurovision tonight has come to its final place for speeches and a gathering. On the last section of this march, GB News saw one flag for the PFLP, the Popular Front for the Liberation for Palestine, an extremely controversial Marxist-Leninist group in Palestine. It's popular in the West Bank and Gaza. It opposes both Hamas and Fatah, the two main groups that have power in the region. But it also is proscribed as a terrorist organization by not only the United States, Japan and Canada, but also by the European Union. And the person I saw waving that flag, I spoke to them and they said that there are many former members of the PFLP on this march today. They were greeted and they have been welcomed along. So quite a controversial inclusion in this march. They're not prescribed in Britain, but we have not seen those flags on our marches in London. Other than that, it was a very common sort of chants that you've heard on many of these other marches across the continent and in particular in London, where this has been happening every other Saturday, of course, since October the 8th, the day after those attacks from Hamas. Now, this is taking centre stage at the moment in Malmö, away from the Eurovision contest, which is in crisis. It's in utter turmoil. Earlier today, the Dutch act was removed from the competition in an unprecedented decision. And in the last 30 minutes, we have had a statement from the Dutch broadcaster, Avro Troos, who said that he was making threatening movements after being repeatedly filmed against his wishes. And that is about Klein Just, the Dutch act there, who was under investigation from Thursday about an incident involving a female member of the broadcasting team, allegedly on Thursday evening. He did not participate in any rehearsals yesterday, nor today, and we heard earlier this afternoon that he had been permanently disqualified from the competition, bringing down the number of participants to just 25. But at the same time, there's been further drama in the main Malmö arena in the south of the city, away from just the Dutch camp. The French act, during his final rehearsal, he paused to deliver a political speech referring to the motto of Eurovision this year, United by Music. He called for peace, which was wildly applauded within the audience, breaking with convention for the final rehearsal. We've also seen a statement from the Irish camp, Bambi Thug. They have been accusing the Israeli broadcaster here of being involved in negative comments towards them on their channel. And we've also seen a strange move from Norway, but the person running their jury vote has pulled out. So it's chaos here in southern Sweden.
Charlie Peters, thank you so much. He's live in Sweden. We'll get those updates throughout the evening. Right. Well, joining me now is time for the Great British Debate this hour, and joining me now is Stella Taxedu. I think I got it. Have I got it right, Stella?
No, Tzadekidu, but that's all right. No worries about it. I'm so jealous of Charlie. I love Eurovision, Nana. Do you like Eurovision?
Listen, I'm sick of the politicisation of it, but what do you think? Should Israel, do you think they should be attending?
I think it would be, the reason why I think they should be attending is because I think it would be quite awkward if they didn't. And I think it would reflect on the singer who is 20 years old. See herself, her family is from Ukraine and Latvia. They flee Russia and they moved to Israel. So they're kind of refugees themselves. And the girl is only 20 years old. It is not her fault. It is not right to hold her responsible for the actions of her government. If you ask her, she may well also not like her own government. She may also not like Netanyahu, as a lot of young Israeli people her age don't like him. But what I would say is, as annoying as the protests may be, and as unsavory as a lot of the actions of the protesters are, and I completely protest their harassment, I think it's disgusting, we have to consider the context of Israel being about to invade Rafah, where 1 million Palestinian refugees have sought refuge. Now, these people have nowhere to go. We know that less than a third of hospitals in Palestine are not functioning right now. We know that there has been a 300% increase in miscarriages. A third of infants are starving. So, as much as I would love to enjoy Eurovision, and I do think that Israel should be allowed to participate because they have given us these amazing previous participations like Dana International. These were good, simpler times. But right now, a lot of people are about to die.
It's a singing contest. I want to bring in Simon Gross. Simon. Oh, he's gone. He's not there, sadly. No, we don't have him yet. Oh. Well, we're working on Simon because he's going to give us a different view. Well, let me go to my panel. Stella, stay right there. Look, Eurovision, what do you think, Lizzie?
Look, I love Eurovision, and this has gone mad. It's a singing contest. I know it's always been a bit political. If one country had fallen out with another, you'd give them nil point. But this is getting out of hand and it's out of control. And this poor, girl who's singing for Israel, she does not deserve this. She's got protests, chanting outside her room all night. She's 21 years old. It's disgraceful. Honestly, this is a singing contest, and I'm really upset about it. And I, for one, I love Eurovision, and I'm covering it this evening, but I'm really, it's turned into some woke fest, and it's becoming something it wasn't. It's supposed to be fun.
It was supposed to unite people. It's a very divisive thing.
Well, I agree with what Stella said. I think it's and Lizzie. I mean, I think of course it's completely right that Israel participates, and you know, it's outrageous to try and pin the sins of the Israeli government on the Israeli performer any more than you can pin the sins of any other government on an individual.
But they excluded Russia, though.
Yeah, but
what's the difference?
Well, they excluded Russia because it invaded Ukraine. I mean, at the moment, of course, pretty much every country that's in Eurovision is a supporter of Israel's right to defend itself politically. So that's a different situation. So, I mean, yes, of course, ultimately it does have to reflect the sort of geopolitical forces. But at the moment, remember that our governments are in favour of Israel being allowed to take action. Now, as Stella said, you know, I think we all want there to be restraint over Rafah. We all want aid to get in. But you know, unless a country is an enemy of Europe, as it were, then they should be included.
I want to quickly come... But Stella's still there, because I want to just get her view on the whole thing about genocide, because you're hearing them talk about genocide, which I think is a little bit unfair. Stella, if you're still there, what are your thoughts on the fact that they're saying, oh, it's a genocide, Israel are committing genocide? I mean, it's a war, right? So this isn't specifically targeting Palestinian people. They are trying to get hold of Hamas. There's a difference.
I don't think it matters whether it ends up being legally identified as genocide by international community or not, whether the ICJ decides that it is a genocide or not. What people care about is the fact that loads of innocent people and children are dying right now. Because for the vast majority of public, ethnic cleansing, genocide, they know what these words mean, in that they mean that a lot of people have died. The legal specificities don't matter to them. What this shows us, what the invasion of Rafah shows us, is how untenable the Israeli government's position is, because you have even President Biden, who has been steadfast.
Come on, hold on, sorry. President Biden.
He's saying that they will be.
He's not really saying. Everyone talks about President Biden as though he's a credible figure and as though he's actually saying anything.
President
Biden,
the leader of the free world.
It's his advisors. President Biden's advisors told him to say something.
And he's saying that Israel will be acting against international humanitarian law if they use the arms that the US sold to them to invade Rafah, because this is where all the refugees have sought refuge. It was supposed to be a safe area.
Wait there, I'm going to bring in Simon Gross. It's a bit late for him to be saying that now, I'd say. Listen, Simon. Oh, crikey. It's Simon Gross. He's actually... When you said you were in drag, I was expecting you to look good.
Oh, thanks. I've actually just come off stage, Nana. I've literally just come off stage. The makeup is melting.
No, you look great. We love it. Simon, so talk to me. What should Israel be participating in Eurovision? What's your thoughts on all of this?
Well, first of all, as a Jewish man, why should Israel not be participating? Why should any country not be participating? You know, Eurovision is about entertainment, it's about fun, and Israel have got a great singer. She's great, and I think it's a good song. And I think, just like every other country, Israel has fully entitled to be part of Eurovision this year. Why not?
Do you think that it's become so overly politicised instead of it should just be about the music?
I think it's, as Lizzie was just saying, Eurovision should be about fun. It should be about entertainment. Why has it become some sort of political, debate about a country entering? Think about years ago when we had Buck Spears and Brotherhood of Man, those great... You know, we've just done a show. We were celebrating Eurovision. People love those songs. Eurovision is about rejoicing, fun music, and having a good time, not talking about everything that's going on in the world today. It's wrong.
I mean, all these protesters as well. I mean, let's just quickly bring Stella back in. Stella, all these protesters going on in the way they are, it's absurd, isn't it? It's a bit of a stretch.
No, it's not, because we complain when people protest in a violent way, and we say, if only you were protesting in a more peaceful, democratic way.
Yeah.
And then when they actually do it, we don't let them, because we're saying, oh, Eurovision is supposed to be fun and you're ruining our good fun. How else are people supposed to protest the death of hundreds of thousands of children, 14,000
Yeah, but we shouldn't be protesting about Eurovision. We should be watching it and enjoying it. It's not a protest. It's about entertainment, about fun.
So how did people put pressure on South Africa to end the apartheid?
I think it's too serious.
How can
we need
people
to bring
in
it
a
back.
non-violent way protest the actions of a government? They do it by protesting.
But they're not particularly nice about it, are they? They're hanging outside a hotel room. Simon.
Yeah, well, I mean, the guy from the Netherlands making comments about Israel entering, and there's been I've heard lots of things, you know. At the end of the day, Israel has every right to be part of the Eurovision Song Contest, just like Greece, just like Malta, just like the UK. It's a country. I'm proud to be a Jewish man. I hate what's going on in the world, but today I'm going to enjoy Eurovision and I'm going to rejoice Israel, and I hope they win.
Okay, brilliant. Well, listen, Simon, where is your show? What's it called? Because it sounds like fun, and you've dressed up for the occasion, so it's only fair.
I'm very bedraggled, as you just... we're Divas London. We're here till the 23rd of June. As you can see, the London Eye behind me, hopefully, on the Thames, every Friday, Saturday and Sunday. It's a fabulous party show. It's about entertainment and having fun. And I think that's what the world needs right now, a bit of fun.
Bit of fun. Simon Gross, thank you so much for joining me. Stella Santikidu, yes? Political commentator, thank you so much. Lovely to talk to you. There, got it. Right, if you just tuned in, welcome. Where have you been? We're towards the end of the show. This is GBNews. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Still to come. We'll continue with the Great British Debate this hour. I was asking, should Israel be included in Eurovision? My panel will be back, but first, let's get your latest news.
It's 5:34. I'm Aaron Armstrong. The final of Eurovision will go ahead later without the Netherlands after its singer was axed over a backstage incident. Swedish police are investigating an allegation of intimidation and inappropriate behaviour made by a female member of the production crew. He had been amongst the favourites to win it. Separately, Ireland's entrant, Bambi Thug, missed dress rehearsal over what they've described as an incident which needed urgent attention from the European Broadcast Union. Tonight's final is taking place against the backdrop of huge pro-Palestinian demonstrations in the city of Malmö. They're protesting against Israel's participation. They're marching from the city centre to the venue at the moment. Israel's entrant, Eden Golan, has qualified for tonight's final, where security has been tightened. 17-year-old Ronald Zabele has died after getting into trouble while swimming in the town of Wellingborough. He was found in the water by rescue crews yesterday after getting into difficulty in open water at the embankment. Northamptonshire police say it was a tragic incident, and Ronald's family have requested privacy at this distressing time. A police officer's been shot in the leg with a crossbow in Buckinghamshire after responding to a stabbing in High Wycombe last night. A 54-year-old man's been arrested on suspicion of attempted murder and was shot by an armed officer. He's now in hospital under police supervision with potentially life-changing injuries. Thames Valley Police have confirmed the officer who was shot has since been discharged from hospital. And if you're suffering a bout of regret about missing a rare display of the Northern Lights last night, fear not. You'll get another opportunity later as one of the strongest geomagnetic storms to hit the planet in years returns. Aurora Borealis will be visible across the UK, although it may not be quite as pronounced as yesterday. If you are staying up, any time after 10:30 will be the best. And there you go. Scan that QR code on your screen to get GB News alerts, or you can also find the details on our website. Now it's back to Nana.
Thank you, Aaron. Stay tuned. Do not go anywhere. Loads more still to come. But there is also plenty of time to win our biggest cash prize so far. It's a whopping £20,000. Imagine having that in your bank account. This would be great, wouldn't it? Especially for the summer. But you've got to be in the draw with your chance. Here's how.
Don't miss your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far. A totally terrific £20,000 in tax-free cash to make your summer spectacular. You could use that cash to splash out on a holiday, make the garden glam, buy a new car, or just save it for a rainy day. Whatever you'd spend £20,000 on, make sure you don't miss the chance to make it yours. For another chance to win £20,000 in tax-free cash, text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. or post your name and number to GB05 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 31st of May. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Between 1955 and 1989, an average of 55 nuclear tests were conducted across the globe each year. More than 30,000 young British and Commonwealth servicemen served at British test locations in Australia and the Pacific Ocean. But in the years since, those who were involved say they've been ignored and lied to about their exposure to radiation. For decades, Lab Rats International has represented the millions across the world exposed to fallout from the testing programmes and the families who still suffer today from illness and deformities. Last year, the government unveiled the Nuclear Test Medal, recognising the military, civilian and overseas staff and personnel who participated in Britain's nuclear testing programme in the 1950s. But for Lab Rats founder Alan Owen, whose own father was a nuclear test veteran, the work is only just beginning. In September, they launched a legal challenge to the Ministry of Defence to provide the test veterans full medical records, which they say they've been denied access to.
We sit in this bubble as the nuclear test veteran community, fighting against the establishment. And they will say, ministers will go in Parliament and say, all you've got to do is apply for your medical records and they'll give them to you. It just doesn't happen. It's not a reality. They're not there to as easy, as accessible as just applying. They will fight you all the way. They will delay it.
In response, a government spokesperson said, "We are grateful to all service personnel who participated in the British nuclear testing programme, which is why we have formally recognised them with an official medal. Nuclear test veterans who believe they have suffered ill health due to service have the existing and long-standing right to apply for no-fault compensation under the War Pensions Scheme." The fight for these veterans and their families lives on because thousands who came before never got the recognition and justice for their service.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Sunday nights on GB News. From 6, Neil Oliver. At 7, it's Free Speech Nation with Andrew Doyle. At 9, Mark Dolan. And at 11, get set for the week ahead with headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, 41 after 5 o'clock. This is GB News. We are the People's Channel. If you just tuned in, where have you been? There's less than 21 minutes to go. I'm Nana Akua, and it's time now for the Great British Debate this hour. I'm asking, should Israel be included in Eurovision? Now, this year's contestant is marred in controversy as Israel's entry, Eden Golan, has faced a backlash and even reported at contempt from the other competitors. I mean, honestly, many protesters currently marching in Malmö want her banned. Russia and Belarus were kicked out of the competition 2 years ago, so there is precedent for the protesters' demands. But, of course, Russia invaded a sovereign country without provocation. However, it does seem that Israel will be in the grand final tonight, which I think is a good thing. But what do you think? So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should Israel be included in Eurovision? Let's see what my panel make of that. Joining me now, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, also former Labour Party advisor Matthew Larzer. Right, I think who went first last time?
I don't know.
Lizzie Cundy.
Lizzie's always got a lot to say.
Well, especially about Eurovision, because it's something that I always have a party every year. We all dress up, we put names in a hat. I love Eurovision, and I feel really sad what's happening to it now. It's totally changed. It's gone all political. It's gone on like a woke fest. Our own entry, Ollie Alexander, I can't even watch the performance. You know. This,
I like it.
What, he's hanging in a toilet?
Hanging in a toilet upside...
Crotch grabbing,
grinding.
But he knows his audience in terms of Eurovision.
No,
I mean, one of the big things about...
But it was never that, though, was it?
Yeah, I mean,
like
it is a long...
It's too much.
It is a long way from
much.
Bucks Fizz, let's put it like that. I mean, I think one of the sad things today is that pretty much every gay bar in Britain, which would normally be screening Eurovision, having parties, you know, it's been described variously as the Gay Olympics or Gay Christmas, are almost all not showing it because they want to join the boycott, and they accuse Israel of pinkwashing, i.e. using LGBT rights as to cover what they're doing. So I think that's very sad.
Well, the thing in Sweden, Queers for Palestine, I think, organised it. Now, I mean, we all know that those in Palestine probably, you know, somebody who is homosexual probably wouldn't be welcomed in Palestine.
Yeah, it's not exactly... I can tell you that the Palestinian territories are not up there in the International Index of LGBT rights. I mean, I've been to Malmo. I mean, there's a lot of problems in Malmo that they should be addressed, never mind the Eurovision Song Contest, big problems with gang violence and integration. So I just think it's a real shame.
I mean, that's not to say, though, by the way, that Palestinians, you know, oppose people who are gay.
No, just the government,
the
Hamas-run government.
We all want this war to end. We all want this war to end, and it could end this second if Hamas were to give the hostages back, and it would stop. You know, and sadly, look, it has always been a bit political, Eurovision. We lost out to, you know, Sam Ryder with giving it to the Ukraine, really.
It's always like that, isn't it?
That's sadly what it is.
Right, well, listen, this show's nothing without you and your views. Let's welcome some of our great British voices there. Opportunity to be on the show and tell us what they think about the topics we're discussing. Let's see how many I've got of you. 3 of you miserable people. Right, I'm going to do something unusual and start with David Balme, who's in the middle. Why not? OK, David Balme, you're in Watford. You've got about 30 seconds. What's your thoughts on this?
No, they should not be banned. I love the complete conglomerate of idiots who are protesting about Israel, forgetting that Israel were invaded, forgetting that they are holding hostages. And as Lizzie said, if they released the hostages and lay down their arms, there would be no need to fight. And that's the end of the bottom line. They do not wish to have a ceasefire, and all these idiots are doing is giving them oxygen for a false cause.
Right, let's go to Gareth Wyn-Jones in Snowdonia. Gareth.
Competition. You know, let's leave these people sing. Why are we making this political? It's none of our business. Let everybody have the opportunity to sing and win. It doesn't matter. Why are we just getting so involved in it? And I think it's quite sad, you know. We know the problems are out there and it could get addressed, but the truth is, it's a singing competition, and we need that freedom of song, of freedom of voice.
It's supposed
to
be joy.
Sing from the tops of their voices.
It's supposed to be joy. I mean, it's been hijacked. There's another thing that's been hijacked by this cause. Let's go to Miranda Richardson, not the Miranda Richardson, but our Miranda Richardson. She's there in Northamptonshire. Miranda, what do you think?
Hi, Nana.
Hi.
So we're talking about the non-political music competition, yeah? Yeah, that's what the EBU say all the time. It's a non-political music competition. I mean, let's face it, the best thing about Eurovision is listening to some of the ropiest songs you've ever heard ever.
Including ours, yeah.
Exactly. I mean, you know, it's never been, apart from Bucks Fizz, you know, and let's be honest, we can give ABBA a few of those.
And Brotherhood of Man, they were good.
Oh, and Brotherhood of Man. You know, it's not exactly renowned for giving us some blistering, you know, performances. It's always been the weird, the wonderful and the quirky. That's the whole point of Europe.
Do you think it's...
leave politics at home.
Leave politics at home. Miranda Richardson, thank you so much.
Tired.
David Balme and also Gareth Wyn-Jones and Snowdonia, thank you so much for your thoughts. Right, coming up, my quickfire quiz. I'll test the panel on some of the stories that have caught my eye. But next is clickbait. The Northern Lights lit up the skies across Britain last night. Find out more.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast on the Met Office. We're looking ahead to the rest of this weekend. A change is in store. We start to say goodbye to this area of high pressure, and low pressure begins to take charge as we head towards next week. But back to the here and now, we still have some fairly fine and settled weather as we end Saturday, so a pleasant end to the day. Some low cloud and mist just moving in from the east, but for many, it's another fairly good chance to see the northern lights tonight, especially across more northern parts of the country. And for all of us, it's going to be a fairly mild night. Most towns and cities staying firmly in double figures. So we do start off Sunday with some low cloud and some mist across the east. That will gradually burn its way back towards the North Sea. Elsewhere, plenty of sunshine as we go through the course of the morning, and then into the afternoon we start to see some scattered showers develop, and these will then turn quite thundery and heavy in places. There are warnings in force from the Met Office as we go through the course of tomorrow, so do watch out if you are travelling about. But in the sunshine, highs reaching 26 or 27 degrees. Then as we move into next week, we start to see low pressure take charge. This band of rain will move in during the course of Monday across the southwest, giving a very wet picture here. Elsewhere, a mixture of sunny spells and showers, but as we go in towards the middle part of the week, temperatures will fall back down to where they should be for the time of year.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel.
We're GB News, and we come from a proud tradition of British journalism.
That's why I'm so excited to be here. It's something so new.
The first news channel to be launched in Britain in over 30 years.
Launched to represent the views of the British people.
To go where other broadcasters refuse to go. How did you find out about the story in the first place?
Launched with one aim.
To be the fearless champion of Britain.
It's an absolutely fantastic atmosphere here.
This is GB News.
The People's Channel. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And why it matters to you. From your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you. Good afternoon, Britain. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Gloria Di Piero. This is GB News, Britain's election channel.
Good afternoon. This is GB News, we're the People's Channel. I'm Nana Akua. It's time now for clickbait. The northern lights lit up the skies across Britain last night. Usually, they're seen in as far as the north of the country and are caused by charged particles in the Earth's atmosphere. But last night, the whole country got a glimpse. Did any of you get a glimpse? Was it yes or no?
I'm so sorry. No, I didn't. I was in the pub.
No, what about you, Matthew?
No, I didn't. I sent a message from a friend who was in Newcastle, who's a Geordie, and he looked outside and he was sending me fantastic pictures, but I looked outside and I couldn't see anything.
No. It's sad because I fell asleep with my cream crackers and cheese. And there's 1.5 crackers left. I woke up with the dry mouth, crackers coughing, and I realised...
And you missed out on a once-in-a-lifetime phenomenon.
I completely missed out.
That would be a sight for sore eyes, my love.
Don't finish the packet tonight.
No wig on as well. Christ, God help us. I'm glad no one took a picture. Anyway, welcome again to my panel. Former Labour advisor Matthew Larser and also broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy. Right, so now it's time for my quick-fire quiz, the part of the show where I test my panel on some of the other stories that are hitting the headlines right now. Your buzzer, please, Matthew Larser. And Lizzie Cundy, your buzzer? Right, fantastic. And please play along at home. Question 1. Tonight is the Eurovision Song Contest, but when did the UK last win it? Was it A, 1976, was it B, 1981, or C, 1997? Matthew Larser.
1997, Tony Blair was elected a Labour government and then we won the Eurovision Song Contest.
Lizzie Cundy.
B, 81, it was Bugfist.
81, she says. It was 97. 1997, and it was Katrina.
Oh, of course it was.
Yes, they won with their song.
I do, yeah.
Throwaway Point. What was the song called?
Oh, God, I could...
Lizzie?
Love shine a light.
There you go. I gave it.
She read it off the course.
I was giving it to her 1-1. Right, question 2. Question 2, true or false? Despite this being the hottest day of the year so far, we're expecting a torrential thunderstorm tomorrow. True or false?
Yes. I was first.
Okay,
You were not.
I was. After
You
that
wait till
cheating.
your name has been called.
Oh, sorry, miss.
Matthew Laza.
Yes.
Okay, Lizzie Cundy?
Yes. I'll say no.
It's true. Neither of you get a point because it was true or false, not yes or no. Sorry. Quite simple. So you're both right. Question 3. A new study has revealed which of these British insults will soon become extinct. Is it A, prat, B, plonker, or C, numpty? Lizzie Cundy?
C, numpty.
I think it is C, numpty, but I'll go for B, plonker.
B, plonker. Let's see, the answer is all of them.
All of them.
Plonkers. Numpties.
Numpties used the number in Scotland.
Is it?
Yeah.
And I think I've been out with all of them.
Well, yeah, me too. Researchers from Perspectives Global polled 2,000 Britons about their favourite insults and found that these words are set to die within a generation.
Wow, that was a trick question.
Well, yes, it was the question.
You're still just about in the lead, future.
Yes. Question 4. The economy officially exited recession this week, but how much did the economy grow by? Closest answer wins. Matthew Laza.
0.2%.
Lizzie Cundy.
0.1.
Oh, I should have gone the other way. 0.6%. So
I knew it was
Laza,
little,
you take
but
that. It was
yes,
a bit more
sorry.
than that, though. So I thought you were going to go the other way.
No.
Matthew Laza, you take that 0.2.
You are winning, Matthew.
Question 5, only just. There's one more. Question 5, the National Cyber Security Centre is facing questions about its own defences this week after the door codes inside its facility were revealed to be what? Is it A...
That was taking a mickey.
I am so sorry.
1, 1, 1, 1. Is it B, 1, 2, 3, 4, or C, 6, 9, 6, 9? Matthew Laza.
B, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Lizzie Cundy?
B.
What did you say?
It is B, but I'll go for A.
You're going to go for A. The answer is 1, 2, 3, 4, which is B. So you were right, Matthew Laza. You win this one.
You
3-1. Well done.
I'll let you do that, darling.
That's very kind.
You went one answer off the auto.
Isn't that generous of her? Yeah, isn't that weird that the internal doors inside the London HQ...
Unbelievable.
The National Cyber
You couldn't make it
Security
up.
Centre.
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
You couldn't make it up.
That's
literally.
They literally didn't make it up, did they?
That's the whole point.
Do you think the Wi-Fi password's password as well?
Probably.
How silly.
It is really ridiculous.
Absolutely.
Well, on today's show, I've been asking, does Starmer's immigration plan get your vote? And according to our Twitter poll, 7.4% of you say yes, 92.6% of you say no.
Wow.
Well, what a surprise.
Wow.
Can't blame a lad for trying.
Wow.
It's a ridiculous plan, isn't it? Come on, let's be honest.
Ridiculous.
It's about as good as a cyber security code.
I think it's somewhat better than that, and it would make a difference.
Yes, what do you think?
I'm so sorry, Keir Starmer. I think he's showing his true colours. I think people... I remember Neil Kinnock, and he was all cocksure, and then it didn't work for him.
He's been criticising Keir
I'll
today.
say one thing for 1990. Criticised Keir, but I can't get over him falling into the water and that beach stunt at the end of him. Thank you so much to my panel, author and broadcaster Lizzie Cundy, and also political commentator Matthew Laza. You've been demoted. And also a huge thank you to you at home for your company.
My phone went off.
I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, same time, same place. The Saturday 5 is up next.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast on the Met Office. Well, looking ahead to the rest of this weekend, a change is in store. We start to say goodbye to this area of high pressure, and low pressure begins to take charge as we head towards next week. But back to the here and now, we still have some fairly fine and settled weather as we end Saturday, so a pleasant end to the day. Some low cloud and mist just moving in from the east, but for many, it's another fairly good chance to see the northern lights tonight, especially across more northern parts of the country. And for all of us, it's going to be a fairly mild night. Most towns and cities staying firmly in double figures. So we do start off Sunday with some low cloud and some mist across the east. That will gradually burn its way back towards the North Sea. Elsewhere, plenty of sunshine as we go through the course of the morning, and then into the afternoon we start to see some scattered showers develop, and these will then turn quite thundery and heavy in places. There are warnings in force from the Met Office as we go through the course of tomorrow, so do watch out if you are travelling about. But in the sunshine, highs reaching 26 or 27 degrees. Then as we move into next week, we start to see low pressure take charge. This band of rain will move in during the course of Monday across the southwest, giving a very wet picture here. Elsewhere, a mixture of sunny spells and showers, but as we go in towards the middle part of the week, temperatures will fall back down to where they should be for the time of year.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Don't miss your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far. A totally terrific £20,000 in tax-free cash to make your summer spectacular. You could use that cash to splash out on a holiday, make the garden glam, buy a new car, or just save it for a rainy day. Whatever you'd spend £20,000 on, make sure you don't miss the chance to make it yours. For another chance to win £20,000 in tax-free cash, text prize to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB05 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 31st of May. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday from 8 p.m.
The International Monetary Fund has estimated that Russia will outgrow all advanced economies in 2024.